Chapter 237. Matching the Plane World. Matching successful. Character data has been scanned. Queuing, please wait, entering the plane world, Kane continent, the flames of war have long been extinguished. The Plantagenet dynasty has dominated Kane's fate for more than 300 years. The survivors of the sinful realm have endured the humiliation of defeat. Now, the heaven-shaking war drums have been sounded once again. Will the rebellion of the survivors succeed? Will the empire's rule continue? History will ultimately be written by the victors. The scene in front of him froze. Bai Xiaowen discovered that this entry was a little special. He did not immediately enter this plane world called Kane. He and Li Shi were in a void. A notification from the spirit realm came. Due to the uniqueness of the spirit realm ticket you used, you have received the following rewards. Reward 1, Durability. Your main mission duration has been extended by 50%. The original duration of 10 days is now 15 days. Reward 2, Prestigious Family. Your entry identity, including but not limited to nobility, caste, and bloodline, has been increased by 2 levels. Please draw your entry identity, 2 halves. You can choose one of the 2 identities to enter. You can also give up the reward of Prestigious Family and choose to enter as an ordinary free person. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi shared the information. Li Shi said with a smile, the last reminder is a little redundant. I don't think anyone will enter as a free person. In that case, it would be the same as entering as a D-class ticket. Bai Xiaowen said, that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes, the real identity might not be better than the ordinary identity of a free person. The spirit realm's rules give this option for a reason. He then chose to draw an identity. A virtual roulette appeared in front of Bai Xiaowen. It was divided into 10 different areas, but the words were covered by fog and could not be seen clearly. Bai Xiaowen moved the pointer and quickly drew the first identity, as well as some simple information. You have obtained entry identity A, Bloodspear Warlord's son, candidate. The Bloodspear tribe is one of the many demi-human tribes that were exiled. They also have another name, the Giant Demons. Compared to humans, giant demons are taller and more slender. Their skin is green, and they have 2 deadly fangs protruding from their gums. This barbaric and terrifying race has very strong self-healing and regenerative abilities. The Bloodspear tribe is only a small tribe compared to the entire giant demon race. However, their leader, Kai Han, is still young and full of ambition. He is currently seeking a higher position in the giant demon clan in order to increase his authority in the sinful realm allied army. Bai Xiaowen narrowed his eyes and moved the roulette for the second time, drawing the second identity cut in. You've obtained entry identity B, Lord of Whitestone Town, candidate. 300 years ago, the human race won the War of the Original Sins and established the Plantagenet dynasty, banishing many alien races to the sinful realm in the northern desert. Many warriors who performed meritorious deeds were enfeoffed as lords, and their descendants inherited their ancestors' glory and fiefs. Based on the Plantagenet dynasty's founding emperor's orders, if a lord's heir doesn't have enough meritorious deeds, their title and fief will drop by a level. After 300 years of peace, the originally huge Whitestone territory has shrunk to the size of a town. You are the current heir of Whitestone Town, a baron. Whitestone Town is located at the northern border of the empire. It is remote and desolate, with few people. There is also the threat of war from the survivors of the northern desert. The roulette in front of Bai Xiaowen disappeared. This is a good opportunity to gather information. Let me think about it. Bai Xiaowen said, this plane is called Kane. It is obviously a plane with a European background, a plane of swords and magic. As for the factions of this plane, it is very clear. On one side are the humans of the Plantagenet dynasty that ruled the continent. On the other side are the subspecies that were banished to the sinful realm in the northern desert, such as orcs and trolls. Li Shi nodded and said, there are 2 identities selected. One is to join the human camp, and the other is to join the survivors' camp. Which identity do you think is better? Bai Xiaowen smiled, tell me your opinion first. If it were me, I would choose the identity of the son of the Bloodspear warlord. Li Shi thought for a while. The trolls might be a little ugly, but according to the information, their racial innate ability of regeneration is very practical. Moreover, as the son of a small tribe's leader, you should have the right to mobilize some troll warriors. This is very beneficial for us to seek some personal benefits. After a pause, Li Shi continued, if you choose the human side, you can get the identity of a lord, but it will probably be a rundown and sparsely populated territory. I've seen such a small territory in the Phelan Plain before. Apart from the title of lord, it doesn't have any other advantages. Bai Xiaowen thought for a while and slowly said, the identity of the son of the Bloodspear warlord seems very good. However, there are 2 points to consider. First, the leader, Khair Khan, is an ambitious person in the prime of his life. He should have a very strong desire for control. The Bloodspear tribe is also a small tribe, so they should have very few elite warriors. I'm afraid it won't be easy to mobilize the elite warriors of the giant demon clan to work for us under Khair Khan's nose. Second, the information doesn't mention if Khair Khan has any other children. This is a trap. I reckon that Khair Khan has many children, and my identity should be the kind that isn't valued. I can understand the first point, but why is the second point? Li Shi asked in surprise. Because this ticket only rewards access to identity, not access to status. Bai Xiaowen patiently explained, identity refers to nobility, caste, bloodline, and other things related to one's birth. Status refers to importance and influence. Our reward of famed clan is just like Emperor Lu during the Three Kingdoms era. It's just a title and name. In terms of importance and influence, it's actually very ordinary. Li Shi thought for a while and said, then, if you choose Whitestone Town's lord, it's probably just a title and name and has no influence. Chapter 238. Li Shi nodded his head in conviction. After Bai Xiaowen made his choice, the rules of the spiritual realm continued to give notifications. You have chosen your entry identity, Lord of Whitestone Town. It has been detected that your teammate has entered the Cane Bit Wall with you through a teaming method. Matching her entry identity. The matching identity has been confirmed. Please choose a name for you and your teammate, and try to match the naming habits of the Cane Bit Wall. Li Shi smiled and said, I received a notification that I've been matched with the sister of the Lord of Whitestone Town. You and I are really fated to be siblings. What name are you going to use? Bai Xiaowen thought for a while and said a name with a smile, Dior Kale Bloom. Does this name have any meaning? Li Shi asked curiously. There's no special meaning. It's a pseudonym I used when I wandered into the first bit wall, the Aaron Bit Wall, Bai Xiaowen said. Since we're matched as siblings, I want to have the same surname as you. Kale Bloom, this surname is really a bit strange. Li Shi muttered a few words and quickly confirmed her entry name, Charlotte Kale Bloom. After confirming the names, the nothingness in front of them dissipated, and they entered the Cane Bit Wall. Are you sure this is the house of the Lord of Whitestone Town? Li Shi looked at the shabby wooden house. There were cobwebs hanging in the corners, and a thin layer of dust had accumulated on the table. In the corner, there were a few mice passing by to join in the fun. Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, at least the area of the house is still very large. It's equivalent to twice the size of our villa and Taoran restaurant. Suddenly, Bai Xiaowen frowned slightly. A string of character information was transmitted into his mind and turned into a character illustration book that could be flipped through at any time. This kind of information transmission would happen every time a ticket was used to enter the spiritual realm. Moreover, there would be more information if the identity of a B-level ticket was more complicated. For example, the information that was being transmitted to Bai Xiaowen's mind now covered the information of all the people that the young lord knew up until now. Li Shi also received some of the information. The two of them closed their eyes and digested it for a while. Bai Xiaowen opened his eyes first. This young lord is quite fickle. Originally, when it came to his generation, the family still had some savings, but he just squandered it all. Bai Xiaowen rubbed his chin. Now the territory is full of bandits, and most of the people have fled. The remaining people are basically the old, weak, sick, and disabled. The mines and farmlands are basically occupied by bandits. Our daily income is negative. Bai Xiaowen shook his head as he spoke. Then, he spent 100 psionic points to convert his language into the common language of the Cane Plain, ancient Latin. The spiritual realm gave Bai Xiaowen, the young lord's illusionary clothes. Although they were aristocratic clothes, there were also patches in inconspicuous places. This was enough to show that Dior Kailbloom was poor. As the lord's sister, Li Shui, the young lady of White Stone Town, was actually wearing a maid's coarse clothes. There was not a single gold or silver ornament on her body. With a creak, the door of the house was pushed open. A big fat man squeezed in with difficulty. When he looked up and saw Bai Xiaowen and his sister, an impatient look flashed across his face. "Young Master Dior, Miss Charlotte, don't be in a daze. The Empire's security officer has just issued a notice, asking every territory in the northwest border to recruit troops to participate in the Battle of the Black Boulder Defense Line." When Bai Xiaowen saw the big fat man, his information automatically appeared in his mind. Job, the butler of the current lord of White Stone Town. I understand, Job. Bai Xiaowen stretched his neck and walked to the door of the house. Tell me the details of the territory. Details? The big fat butler, Job, was slightly stunned. I mean, what do you want to know? Population, territory, mines, farmland, bandits, tell me everything you know, Bai Xiaowen said. I have to figure out how many people my territory can recruit. Job said in a slightly sarcastic tone, Young Master Dior, did you just wake up today? There are only 100 or so households left in your territory. They are all poor things that can't be squeezed out of them. If they have a little ability, they will leave this dangerous and barren land. Those inferior fields don't even produce enough seeds, and the taxes collected are barely enough for you and Miss Charlotte to eat. There's also an iron mine in the territory, but it is occupied by the ferocious Black Wind bandits. You have no ability to take it back now. This time, according to the order of the sheriff, White Stone Town needs to recruit 2 fully armored knights and 15 auxiliary soldiers with at least leather armor to participate in the battle. I have roughly calculated that the weapons and armor alone require no less than 100 gold coins, and the cost of recruiting soldiers is even higher. Of course, you can also forcibly send a group of people to a group of bumpkins as auxiliary soldiers, as long as you have the ability. The big fat Job finally concluded. So, young Master Dior, you are now on the verge of bankruptcy. You still owe me several months of wages. According to what I said, it is better for you to sell the territory to Lord March of the Red Leaf Territory. Not only can you avoid the debt, but also the obligation to recruit an army. Of course, my wages will be settled. Bai Xiaowen did not answer Job for the time being, because he and Li Shi both received a notification from the spiritual world. Main mission, optional recruit your army. Activate. Mission objective, recruit 2 knights with the strength of elite level 3 and above, and recruit 15 fully equipped auxiliary soldiers. Mission difficulty, unknown. Mission time limit, 15 days. Mission hint, the stronger the army you recruit, the higher your position in the human army will be. You can also give up the mission, sell the territory, and explore the Cane Plain world as a free person. Bai Xiaowen quietly sent the big fat butler Job away, then looked at Li Shui, and the two of them looked at each other in surprise. It is an optional main mission? This is the first time I have seen it. Li Shui said in surprise. Do we have to give up? Bai Xiaowen pondered for a moment, then slowly shook his head. If we give up this mission, we will have to sell the territory to other lords. If we become free people, the spiritual world will probably give us a new main mission for free people. It is unlikely that we will be able to pass it directly and explore freely. Moreover, I am more interested in the first notification of the mission. Chapter 239. Missions in the spiritual realm generally follow the principle of equivalent exchange. Depending on the degree of completion of the mission, the rewards will definitely be different. Bai Xiaowen muttered, I've guessed a possibility, but I can't confirm it, so I won't say it for the time being. No matter what, we have to complete this main mission well. If my guess turns out to be true, the benefits we can get will be amazing. Li Shi nodded. Then, she raised another question, but that fatty just said that we have no income and are poor. How are we going to recruit soldiers? Let's take one step at a time, Bai Xiaowen said. This young lord is not good at government affairs. Although I inherited some of his memories, I still have no idea about the situation in the territory. Let's go out and take a look. The two of them opened the door and a cold wind from the north blew in. There was only one word that entered their eyes: desolate. In front of them was a mud road less than 2 meters wide. It was frozen hard by the cold wind, but it was spared from the pain of being muddy, if there were any travelers here. Not far from the Lord's house, there were a few thatched huts scattered randomly and looked very dilapidated. One by one, people in tattered clothes walked past with numb faces. On the side of the road not far away, there were a few people wrapped in straw, lying on their backs behind a stone block to avoid the cold wind. Bai Xiaowen frowned and walked over. When he got closer, he found that there were old and young people, but they were not wearing any clothes. Most of them only had a piece of black linen wrapped around their crotch area. No wonder they had to use straw to keep out the cold. What are your names? Are you refugees passing through here? After the few people wrapped in straw panicked, one of them, who looked like the leader, spoke in a muffled voice. Lord, my name is Anton. This is my wife, Molly, and the others are my neighbors. Bai Xiaowen sized up the man named Anton. He was obviously different from the average citizen. Although he was not tall, he was very sturdy. His knuckles were thick and there were calluses on them. He was used to doing manual labor. Anton, why did you and your neighbors end up here? A skinny old man pulled Anton aside and said in fear and trepidation, I'm sorry, my lord. We shouldn't appear in your noble sight. We'll leave immediately. Bai Xiaowen felt a little helpless. This old man had obviously misunderstood. He could only wave his hand and say a few words of comfort to calm these panicked refugees down. Anton sighed and said, My lord, we were not refugees, but miners who mined silver in the mines in the west. We did not live a rich life, but we could barely eat and wear. However, the Black Wind bandits raided the mine last week and killed the guards. They looted the mine along with us and even burned down our house. We could only leave the mine and wander about. Wait, silver mine? Bai Xiaowen's eyes lit up. Is there a silver mine in White Stone Town? Anton looked at Bai Xiaowen strangely. Isn't Sir Lord the owner of the mine? White Stone Hill is famous for its silver production. Although White Stone Town is relatively remote, there is still a small silver mine. I'm the owner of the mine? Bai Xiaowen was a little speechless as he lowered his head to look at the hidden patches on his noble attire. He shook his head and said, Who do you give the silver you usually mine to? Of course it's to Job. He's the Lord's most trusted butler. Bai Xiaowen's face darkened. Job did not mention anything about the silver mine just now. You're too cold here. Come to my house. At least you can block the cold wind. Bai Xiaowen sighed as he looked at the miners who were wrapped in straw and shivering in the cold. They hesitated and did not dare to agree. This is an order from the Lord. Bai Xiaowen emphasized. It was obvious that these miners' families, including Anton, were more used to a commanding tone. They helped each other stand up, thanked Bai Xiaowen, and followed him to the Lord's house. Li Shi originally wanted to light the fire in the fireplace, but he had not done it before and was momentarily in a dilemma. Fortunately, Anton's wife, Molly, was better at this. She quickly lit the fire and dispelled some of the cold air. After Li Shi thanked her, he took out 2 tattered clothes from the cabinet on the second floor according to his inherited memory and handed them to Molly. This kind gesture quickly calmed the hearts of the refugees. Now, tell me about the Black Wind bandits, Bai Xiaowen said. The other refugees still did not dare to speak in front of Bai Xiaowen. With Anton's narration as the main point and others adding in a few sentences, the situation of the bandits in White Stone Town was gradually presented to Bai Xiaowen. There were more than 10 bandit groups in White Stone Town. Most of them were just a few bandits gathered together and could not even be considered a mob. They barely survived by robbing and hunting. There were 3 medium-sized bandit groups, each with more than 10 or even dozens of people. They used White Stone Town as their nest and roamed around to commit crimes, mainly plundering the surrounding territories. This also caused White Stone Town to be criticized because Bai Xiaowen did not suppress the bandits. The lords of the surrounding territories had no right to send troops into White Stone Town. The largest bandit group in White Stone Town was called Black Wind and was well known for its ferocity. It was said that this bandit group had more than 100 people. Note that this 100 people referred to the elite bandits who could kill people with swords, not including the auxiliary soldiers and servants who were there to make up the numbers. Moreover, the Black Wind bandits were different from other bandit groups. They had a wide range of targets and did not even let go of the poor White Stone Town. They often killed and set fires. There were originally a few thousand people in White Stone Town, but most of them fled to other territories. After listening to the story, Bai Xiaowen asked, "What is the name of the leader of the Black Wind bandits? How many strong people are there among them?" Anton was stunned and shook his head to show that he did not know. As soon as Bai Xiaowen said this, he knew that he had asked the wrong person. Anton was only a small miner and had limited information. With a bang, the door of the Lord's mansion was pushed open. "My lord, why did you let a group of lowly people in? This is your mansion hall. My God, you will bring shame to the entire Kale Bloom family. Don't you always hate these lowly people?" Fatty Job squeezed his way in and said hurriedly. He then chased Anton and the others away with a look of disgust. "You lowly commoners, get out of the Lord's mansion, or I'll hang you under the eaves to dry." Bai Xiaowen lightly knocked on the table. Chapter 240. Silver Ore. What's silver ore? Job's chubby face changed color slightly before returning to normal. He put on a fake smile and said, "My dear lord, don't be fooled by these bumpkins. Yes, there is a pitiful little silver mine in your territory, but it was mortgaged to Lord March of the Red Leaf territory last year. According to the Empire's laws, it is no longer your mine. Do you need me to show you the mortgage contract? Mortgaged silver mine?" Bai Xiaowen narrowed his eyes. "How come I have no recollection of such an important matter?" He searched his memory and confirmed that there was no such thing in the young lord's memory. Job laughed and said, "Of course you have no recollection of it. Because you have already handed over all the affairs of the territory to me. Your loyal butler, old Job, has full authority. Of course, a small matter like mortgaging the silver mine is also within my authority. The mortgage contract has your seal. The whole process is in accordance with the law and impeccable." Li Shi's eyes flashed with a cold light. His fingers quietly touched his waist. Bai Xiaowen smiled. "But Anton said that the silver ore mined every month was handed over to you in the name of the Lord?" Job laughed out loud. "That's even simpler. I got the right to operate the silver mine from Lord March of the Red Leaf territory. There is also a contract as proof. For 5 years, all the output of the White Stone silver mine, except for a portion that will be handed over to Lord March's tax, belongs to me." Bai Xiaowen nodded. "Mr. Job, you are a loyal butler." Job was surprised that Bai Xiaowen did not fly into a rage as he had expected. However, Job still said cautiously, "Lord Dior, what do you want? Everything I have done is in accordance with the Empire's laws. You have no right to punish me. In addition, I would like to remind you that your Lord's Guard was disbanded 2 years ago because they could not pay their salaries." At this point, Job seemed to have more confidence and gradually found the initiative. A smile appeared on his chubby face again. "By the way, you can also fire me or banish me from White Stone Town. But before that, you need to pay me the salary you owe me for 6 months, which is 60 gold coins in total. I don't think you can afford it, can you? Perhaps you should seriously consider my suggestion and sell your territory to Sir March of the Red Leaf territory. He is also very interested in your sister, Miss Charlotte." After buying the fief, if Miss Charlotte is willing to enter the Red Leaf Manor as a personal maid, Lord March will also pay a considerable sum of gold coins. Bai Xiaowen coughed and interrupted Job. Well said, Job. Under normal circumstances, I really can't do anything to you. Job was stunned and looked at Bai Xiaowen. However, you're mistaken about one thing. As a noble adept, there are times when I don't need to rely on worldly laws to get back what's mine. What do you mean? Just as Job was about to ask, he saw Bai Xiaowen open his right hand. The light of the four-color talisman swirled around his palm. Finally, he chose the yellow talisman and shot it out. A notification from the laws of the spirit world came. Frowny face. The enemy's strength is 0. 378, 1. The success rate of the bewitching talisman's confusion is that it has detected your identity as the Lord of White Stone Town and suppressed the target's identity. The success rate of the confusion has increased. The bewitching talisman's confusion has succeeded. Job Handle, the steward of the White Stone Town Lord's residence in the northern frontier, has been confused. Identity actually has a suppressive effect. Bai Xiaowen suppressed the excitement in his heart. However, although the confusion effect of the bewitching talisman was strong, it could only confuse one target. After that, even if the 9-minute cooldown was over, he could not use another talisman to switch. He had to give up on the confused target. Once he gave up control, the target would immediately die. Of course, Bai Xiaowen could also risk the backlash and use his mental strength to protect the target's brain while he gave up control. However, this was a relatively rare situation. If he did not give up control, the confusion effect would continue until Bai Xiaowen left the spirit world. This time, when he used the bewitching talisman, Bai Xiaowen also experienced the benefits of his identity, which increased the confusion effect. It seemed that in the future, the B-class, A-class, and S-class tickets would be more important to Bai Xiaowen than to other people. Everyone watched dumbfoundedly. After Bai Xiaowen shot out a yellow light, Job, who was originally full of himself, became abnormally well-behaved. He knelt in front of Bai Xiaowen and wished he could kiss his shoes. Get up, Job. How much money did you save from running the White Stone Silver Mine? Where did you put it? Bai Xiaowen asked. Job got up and said in a slightly mechanical voice, I will exchange all the silver or I harvest for imperial gold coins. 70% of it will be sold to Lord March of the Red Leaf Hill, and the other 30% will be left to me. So far, I have saved about 474 gold coins, all of which are hidden in the cellar of my residence. Lead the way, Bai Xiaowen ordered briefly, then said to Anton and the others, follow me. Anton and the others were a little shaken, but they didn't dare to oppose. They didn't expect their lord to be a wizard. In Kane's plain world, wizards were synonymous with mystery, and most people stayed away from them. Job's residence was next to the Lord's mansion. It was worth mentioning that Job, the fat man, had hired people to set up a blow dart mechanism. If an uninformed person wanted to open the cellar, they would be shot by 9 poison arrows from 3 holes in the wall. However, under Job's personal guidance, the mechanism became a mere decoration. In the cellar, Bai Xiaowen saw a box of gold coins. After his hand touched the box of gold coins, a prompt immediately appeared. Detected territory construction resources, gold coins * 470. Lord main page, temporary, opened. Bai Xiaowen was slightly startled, and curiously opened the Lord's page. In front of Bai Xiaowen, a translucent interface appeared, showing a simplified map of White Stone Town. On the top column, there was a line of words, population, 7 gold coins, 479 food, 7 building materials, 0 valuable items, 0 inches. This the information of White Stone Town? Bai Xiaowen frowned and inquired, the population of the territory can't only be 7, right? The spirit world's law prompt quickly responded, the population shown on your lord's page refers to the number of people who are under your influence and can listen to your orders. The residents of White Stone Town who have never interacted with you and have never seen you are not under your influence and are not included in the territory's population. You can increase your reputation and your influence to increase the total number of people under your influence. Bai Xiaowen understood. To put it bluntly, he still needed to increase his reputation. With Bai Xiaowen's intelligence, he quickly deduced the meaning of the last three options. Gold coins, food, and building materials were resources that Bai Xiaowen had the authority to control. Bai Xiaowen currently did not have the authority to control the private property of the other residents in the territory, including gold coins, food, and houses, so they were not included in the Lord's page. It was easy to understand that there were 0 building materials and valuable items. As for the food for 7 people, Bai Xiaowen thought for a moment. It probably referred to the bag of flour and a few loaves of black bread in the kitchen of the Lord's mansion. As for the gold coins, he had just collected 4 gold coins, some silver coins, and some copper coins from Job. Together with the 5 gold coins in the Lord's mansion, there was a total of 479 gold coins. At the bottom of the Lord's page, there was another column of text. Army, 0 popular sentiment, 2 livability, 3, extremely poor, prosperity, 5, extremely low. The low values of these were within Bai Xiaowen's expectations. After all, most of the residents in the territory were in a state where they could not even fill their stomachs. What kind of popular sentiment could there be? Bandits ran rampant, causing the livability to be extremely poor. Bai Xiaowen did not know how to judge the livability value. In a situation like White Stone Town, it actually had 3 points. Then what would 2 points and 1 point be like? It could not be a desolate and uninhabited area, right? White Stone Town was a large bandit nest. There were no caravans coming and going, so it was normal for the prosperity value to be low. Bai Xiaowen put the gold coin box into his storage space. This move shocked Anton and the others. Considering Bai Xiaowen's identity as a wizard, after the shock, they were not unable to accept it. Suddenly, Anton boldly said, "My lord, since you are a wizard, why don't you eliminate the bandits in White Stone Town? Those damned bandits, especially the Black Wind bandits, kill and pillage everywhere. Your people do not dare to work normally. Without these bandits, with White Stone Town's mines and fields, even if it is not rich, it should not be a problem to have enough food and clothing. Those who have left their homes will gradually return, and the taxes they pay to you will also increase." A notification came from the spiritual realm. Frowny face side mission, eliminate the bandits, activated. Mission objective, eliminate the bandit group in White Stone Town's territory. Mission difficulty, unknown. Mission duration, none, equivalent to the maximum number of days you can stay in the Cane realm. Mission reward, unknown. After this side mission was activated, Li Shi looked at Bai Xiaowen and seemed a little excited. Bai Xiaowen thought highly of Anton. His words were organized and clear, and the most rare thing was that he persuaded from the perspective of a lord. Ordinary miners did not have this ability. However, Bai Xiaowen rejected this mission. "Of course I understand," Bai Xiaowen said calmly, "but I have my reasons for not eliminating the bandits. Anton, reorganize a few miners and continue the mining work in the silver mine." Hearing that Bai Xiaowen did not have the intention to eliminate the bandits, Anton and the others were disappointed. Then, what about the Black Wind bandits? They may rob the mine again. It's too dangerous. Anton tried to persuade Bai Xiaowen to change his decision from another perspective. "How much was your previous salary?" Bai Xiaowen asked. 180 coppers per week. Anton did not understand, but he answered honestly. "As long as you are willing to go to the mine, your weekly salary will be increased by 50%. Bai Xiaowen said, "The Black Wind bandits will not rob the mine again. This is my guarantee as the Lord. If you are still unwilling to go, I will not force you. I believe that with this salary, many people in the territory will be willing to do it." When he heard that his salary would be increased by 50%, the old miner's eyes lit up. He rushed to say, "Honorable Lord, the efficiency of the new workers is definitely not as good as ours. So you agree?" Bai Xiaowen looked at Anton. Anton could only lower his head and agree, "Yes, Lord." Bai Xiaowen did not pay much, only a few dozen coppers per week. It was very important to restore the production of the silver mine and maintain the income of gold coins. After Anton and the others left, Bai Xiaowen ordered Job to bring the mortgage of the silver mine and the contract with Red Leaf Hills Lord March. Finally, he sent Job to the mine to supervise the mining work. "You will probably take action against the bandits, right?" Li Shi said. "You can tell?" Bai Xiaowen asked with a smile. "Yes, the best way to solve the main mission should be to recruit the bandits, right?" Li Shi had been thinking, "We can only stay here for 15 days. No matter how much we develop the territory, it will not be effective in half a month. Taking shortcuts to make a fortune is the only way. Those bandits' nests, especially the Black Wind bandits, should have a lot of money. Your idea is very good. It coincides with mine." Bai Xiaowen praised, which made Li Shi feel a little embarrassed. "Then why did you turn down the mission?" Li Shi asked. "Shi, we are wandering in the spiritual realm. We don't have to accept missions whenever we see one," Bai Xiaowen said. "Think about it. Anton has nothing. As the initiator of the mission, what kind of reward can he give us?" Li Shi shook his head. "If we accept this mission, these people will know that we will attack the bandit group. Our advantage of surprise attacks will be gone," Bai Xiaowen said. "Don't count on Anton and the others to keep the secret. Maybe Anton himself can, but what about the others?" Bai Xiaowen took a breath. "Once the news is leaked, it will affect my plan. Besides, this side mission issued by Anton doesn't have any decent rewards. If we complete the mission, he will at most become more loyal to me. Even if we don't accept the mission, we can directly destroy the bandits and gain his loyalty and gratitude. It can also keep the secret." Li Shi nodded, indicating that he understood. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi returned to the Lord's mansion and found a shabby map of White Stone Town in the hall. From the map, they could see that the iron mine occupied by the Black Wind bandits was called the Cliff Mine. It was in the southwest area of White Stone Town. "So our first target is the Black Wind bandits? Isn't it a little too exciting? We should choose a weaker bandit group first and see if the difficulty of the Cane dimension is high," Li Shi said. Chapter 241. "What's strange?" Li Shi asked, puzzled. The ancient bandits of Huaxia had an old saying, "Rabbits don't eat the grass near their burrows." And the behavior of most of the bandits in White Stone Town confirms this sentence. The areas they pillage are all the surrounding territories. Bai Xiaowen said, "Only the Black Wind bandits are different. They only looted the local area. If White Stone Town was rich, it wouldn't be a big deal. But it's poor. The Black Wind bandits probably didn't even have enough food to cover their expenses. Moreover, they were occupying an iron mine, while the silver mine, which was more profitable, was only limited to robbing workers and not occupying the veins of the mine. Based on these 2 points, I'm sure there's something wrong with this bandit group." Li Shi nodded, but he was still a little confused. "Then why?" "There's a more likely explanation, which is that the Black Wind bandits were ordered by someone," Bai Xiaowen said slowly. "I originally suspected that Job was also an insider, and I just went through his memories. However, there's no information about the Black Wind bandits' leader in his memory. Of course, it's also possible that I missed something. After all, after using the bewitching spell on Job, he lost a large part of his memory. What I got was only a small part of his memory fragments. Whether he was ordered or not, we'll know once we kill the leader of the Black Wind bandits." Li Shi was gradually becoming more of a fighter. Bai Xiaowen smiled and nodded. "Let's go to the cliff mine now. However, the default appearance given to me by the Spirit Realm's law is a little too eye-catching. I have to change it." Bai Xiaowen then spent 100 psionic points to change his noble attire into a Western-style wizard's black hooded robe. After putting on the hood, his whole body was covered. The Spirit Realm's law prompted him. "You have changed your second appearance, hooded wizard's attire. You can choose to change back to Lord's attire after 10 seconds out of combat. You don't need to spend any psionic points to change your attire. It was important to note that no matter if it was a noble's attire or a hooded wizard's attire, they were only seen in the eyes of the storyline characters in the Cane Plane. What Bai Xiaowen was truly wearing was the ancient Yao art robes. In addition, his pistol, the Desert Eagle, would automatically be seen as a special magic crossbow in the eyes of the storyline characters in the Cane dimension. Li Shi didn't need to change anything. In Bai Xiaowen's eyes, she was wearing a beautiful snow-white sword Taoist robe. That was enough. Li Shi didn't care that the storyline characters in Cane's world would see the snow-white sword Taoist robe as a maid's uniform, default appearance. The two of them walked all the way to the cliff quarry. Along the way, they saw a desolate and dilapidated scene. A territory with a prosperity of only 5 was indeed extraordinary. There was not a single shop or hotel. Everywhere was filled with numb faces and poorly dressed citizens. He really couldn't imagine what it would be like to have a prosperity rating of less than 5. At night, Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi arrived at the camp of the cliff quarry. This was a vertical cliff. At the bottom of the cliff, there was a simple wooden camp that occupied a large area. In the sky above the camp, there was even smoke rising in spirals. In the camp, not only were there furnaces for forging weapons, but there was also a stable in the west with a dozen war horses. Hundreds of auxiliary bandits were working in the camp in an orderly manner. Rather than calling this a bandit's nest, it was more like a military stronghold, the kind that was very powerful. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi looked down from above. They could see that the camp was built around the mine. At the very back of the camp was the entrance to the cliff quarry. Under the light of the torch at the entrance of the camp, Bai Xiaowen used insight on a tall and thin bandit standing guard. Conan, normal level 4, race, humanoid/human, profession, scout, attributes, STR11, DX16, Con 10, INT 8, skills, haste, eagle eye. Bai Xiaowen used insight on a burly bandit guarding the entrance of the mine. He discovered that although the burly bandit at the entrance of the mine was also a normal monster, he was already at level 6. He was 2 levels higher than the tall and thin bandit at the entrance of the camp. It seems that the elites of the Black Wind Bandits are in the mine. Judging from their strength, the Black Wind Bandits should be around level 4 to level 6. We can't rule out the existence of high-level monsters above level 7. It seems that the Cane Plane is a medium to high difficulty plane. Even a bandit's nest is so powerful, Bai Xiaowen said. In comparison, the underworld of the King of Fighters was so weak that they could queue up to commit seppuku. Awakened ones above level 7 were known as high-level awakened ones. Compared to level 6 awakened ones, there was an obvious difference in strength. A level 7 leader would have additional HP and would be even more difficult to deal with. Li Shi said, "The security is tight. It will be difficult for us to sneak into the mine. Are we still going to attack head-on?" On the way, Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi had discussed their strategy. They would sneak in and kill the leader of the Black Wind Bandits. Without a leader, the bandit group would be in chaos. They might even be able to recruit some of the bandits. Bai Xiaowen rejected the idea of attacking head-on. "These bandits are a good source of soldiers," Bai Xiaowen said. "Sneaking in isn't as difficult as we thought. We're not playing a game. The bandits will be tired and need to eat and rest. The bandits on guard won't be standing there forever. There will be an opportunity. If we're discovered, it won't be too late to attack." Li Shi said, "I'm just worried that the bandit leaders will be alerted and flee on their horses. Why don't we kill the horses first?" "Shi, why are you so murderous?" Bai Xiaowen shook his head and emphasized, "Those horses are my property. I have a way to deal with them." It was late at night. The bandits, soldiers, and servants in the camp all returned to their respective camps to rest. In the huge camp, other than the 2 level 4 bandits on guard at the entrance and the 2 level 6 bandits on guard at the mine entrance, there was only a loose patrol team. They even set up patrols and sentries at night. I'm getting more and more interested in the leader of this bandit group. However, these bandits don't have strict military discipline. The people patrolling and standing guard are listless. It looks like they're just following orders from above, Bai Xiaowen said in a low voice. Chapter 242. At the entrance of the stable, Bai Xiaowen used the Return of the Dead skill and ordered the shadow assassin to sneak into the stable and poison the war horses. What kind of drug did you use? Li Shi asked in a low voice. Kara thistle bean powder, a level 3 laxative, Bai Xiaowen said. It has the same effect as croton. It can make these horses hungry for a whole night. Level 3 laxatives are useless against these intermediate and high-level bandits, but the horses can't resist it. Kara thistle bean powder was a psionic item that contained psionic particles, so it could be brought into the spiritual realm. In fact, Bai Xiaowen had prepared a lot of special poisons for this trip. However, they were all below level 4 and were not very effective against intermediate and high-level monsters. Using poisons on monsters in the spiritual realm and the wilderness to weaken their strength would not cause the battle score to decrease, nor would it reduce the value of the loot. However, there was a prerequisite: the poisoned bandits had to be directly responsible for it. If the bandits were poisoned by unrelated factors and their strength decreased, the value of the loot would still decrease. After adding the poison to the war horses of the Black Wind bandits, Bai Xiaowen recalled the shadow assassin and other summoned creatures. He and Li Shi lay in ambush outside the mine. When it was midnight, the 2 burly bandits who were standing guard at the entrance of the mine staggered towards a shack not far away. Not long after, the sound of scolding and kicking could be heard from the shack. Then, 2 new burly bandits rubbed their sleepy eyes and walked out of the shack. They took a piss first and then went to change shifts. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi had already snuck into the mine. Li Shi's dexterity was as high as 31 points. Although Bai Xiaowen's specialty was spirit, his dexterity was also 15 points. When sneaking in carefully, there was no sound at all. It was easy to fool these bandits with low perceptive sense. The mine was relatively spacious with a diameter of more than 3 meters. It could accommodate many people walking side by side. There was a wall lamp on the wall every 10 meters or so. The dim yellow light was enough for people to recognize the path and not get lost between the forks. The cliff iron mine had been excavated since White Stone Town was still White Stone Ridge. It was unknown how many years it had been excavated, so it was not surprising that there was a tunnel of such a scale. It was nighttime, and most of the bandits in the mine were resting. Therefore, as long as Bai Xiaowen did not make any obvious noise while walking in the tunnel, they would not be discovered. Of course, there were occasional accidents. A burly bandit suddenly walked out from the corner of the stone room as if he was sleepwalking. He staggered to the foot of the wall opposite the stone room and began to pee. Li Shi gently covered his nose. Bai Xiaowen was also speechless. He finally understood where the foul smell in the cave came from. A series of curses in ancient Latin rang out. "Kits! You lazy pig, peeing in the hole again. If Bossian knew, he would definitely cut off your little earthworm." The burly bandit named Kits was happily peeing when he laughed mischievously. "This damned weather, it's so cold outside. I still want to sleep a little longer. Also, Herman, you have to remember, I don't have a little earthworm, but a big python." Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi could only crouch and hide in the shadows, waiting for the burly bandit named Kits to finish peeing and roll back to sleep. Bai Xiaowen used insight again and discovered that the bandits in the cave were indeed stronger than those outside. For example, the Kits in front of him was a level 5 elite. After Kits finished peeing, he shook, beep, and cursed as he fastened his belt. "I don't know what the boss is thinking, treating this damned place as a camp. There are no women here. My big python is so bored it's itching. Why don't we just charge into the Lord's mansion and cut down that little bastard who hasn't even grown hair yet? The boss will be the Lord, and we'll follow and enjoy life. We'll eat meat and sleep in big beds. If we want to play with women, we can go get one. Wouldn't that be fun?" Herman's voice sounded. "Are you stupid, Kits? Killing that little lord is easy, but how much do you know of the serious consequences? This is tantamount to openly provoking the Empire. Do you want to attract the Imperial Army's encirclement? I still want to live a few more days. Kits muttered, I'm just saying. But, Herman, I heard that Boss Ian caught a little girl yesterday. She's quite pretty. Oh, there's something like that. Do you think Boss Ian? Kit's voice was full of lust. Herman denied it. No, that little girl has always been locked up in the northern mine. Old Matt is in charge of watching over her. Boss Ian isn't interested in her? Kits was eager to give it a try. Herman, do you want to go have some fun with her? If you want to die, don't drag me along. Boss Ian said that no one is allowed to touch that little girl. Herman yawned. I'm going to sleep. There's still some time before dawn. Kits, if you're not afraid of death, then go. It won't be as simple as cutting off a little earthworm. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi's expressions changed at the same time. They both received a notification from the spiritual world's precepts. You've learned from a storyline character that there are hostages locked up in the Cliff mine. Side mission, rescue, activated. Mission objective, rescue the hostages in the northern mine of the Cliff mine. Mission difficulty, mission reward, unknown, mission time limit, 2 hours. Li Shi whispered, another side mission. Only 2 hours. Do you want to take it? Yes, Bai Xiaowen said. This mission doesn't conflict with our objective, and there's no punishment. We can do it while we're at it. After both of them chose to accept the mission, Li Shi wanted to find a way to the northern mine, but Bai Xiaowen stopped him. Don't worry about the hostages first. Since the Black Wind bandits said that no one is allowed to touch her, then she's safe for the time being. If we go to rescue her first, we'll inevitably clash with the guards, and the bandits will be on guard. Let's launch a surprise attack first and kill Ian, the boss of the Black Wind bandits. Then, we'll take over the entire Cliff mine. Then, we'll rescue the hostages. That's how we push the boat with the current, and we'll get twice the result with half the effort. The two of them moved forward in the dark. The interior of the Cliff mine was winding and difficult to walk through. The tunnels were connected to each other like a maze. In a dark environment, it was easy to walk the wrong way and get lost. However, Bai Xiaowen relied on his freakishly powerful memory. He clearly remembered how many steps he took in each section of the tunnel. Although his vision was dark, there was a topographic map in his heart that was constantly expanding and perfecting. There was no chance that he would get lost. Soon, the two of them arrived at the main pit of the Cliff mineshaft. Standing at the end of the tunnel and looking down at the main pit, the area of the pit was very large. It was like an underground hall. More than a dozen torches were lit on the walls of the mine, illuminating the huge mine as if it were daytime. In the northernmost part of the mine, there was a simple stone bed that was 2 meters long and wide. A slender, fair-skinned man was lying on the stone bed. His chest, which was clad in armor, was moving up and down as he snored softly. Beside him, there were 2 burly bandits guarding him. In addition, there were also a few skinny servants who only had the standard strength of level 2 and level 3. They were busy washing up. The entire mine looked clean and tidy, which should be the work of these servants. Bai Xiaowen used insight on the fair man on the stone bed. Ian, leader level 6, race, humanoid/human, occupation, Crusader Knight, attributes, strength 45, agility 22, vitality 48, spirit 17, skills, holy hammer, shield bash, devout halo. This Xiao Bai is the leader of the Black Wind bandits, Ian? Bai Xiaowen looked at Li Shi in surprise. Level 6 leader, looks like it's true. Look at him, he doesn't even take off his armor when he sleeps. How impressive, Li Shi said. Bai Xiaowen shook his head. In another time and space, Bai Xiaowen had read some Western fantasy time travel novels. The bandit leaders in those novels were all burly, had black and hard chest hair, and snored like thunder. Xiao Bai was able to control the situation with such a face. He must have some skills. After all, he was in a group of vicious bandits. If he was slightly weaker, he might not even be able to keep his position as the leader. Speaking of style, Bai Xiaowen couldn't help but complain. Why was it that in the fantasy transmigration novels that he had read, every young lord had a loyal old butler who served them for 2 generations, but here, he only had Job, this big fatty who lived off his family and betrayed them? Bai Xiaowen's thoughts wandered for 0.1 seconds before he came back to his senses. How do we fight? Li Shi asked. This is a defense-type boss with high strength and vitality. He also has a skill to dispel crowd control, Bai Xiaowen said. The boss itself isn't difficult to deal with. However, there are 2 level 7 elite guards around him. Both of them are damage dealers who specialize in strength. It will be more troublesome. Bai Xiaowen checked the items he had and took out the bottle of strong life toxin that he had obtained from Grey Ear, the leader of the rat pack. This bottle of strong life toxin was a poison that directly reduced the target's HP. The target would lose 20% of their maximum HP in 5 seconds. However, the poison's effect would be reduced when facing high-level enemies. But even if the effect was reduced, it was necessary to use it now. Bai Xiaowen chose to apply poison to the Shadow Assassin's weapon. He said softly, "Let's do it the same way. Let the Shadow Assassins sneak over and attack with double damage. We'll use the strategy of dividing and surrounding the boss and the 2 high-level elites. Kill the elites first, then the boss. Try to trick him into using his crowd control skill." After the 30-second cooldown period, Bai Xiaowen applied poison to Li Shi's refined rapier. He used up all the 2 uses of this bottle of strong life toxin. Whoosh! Bai Xiaowen summoned the summoned creatures from the Black Spirit Stone. The 2 high-level elite bandits seemed to have sensed something and looked up. However, Bai Xiaowen, Li Shi, the skeleton swordsman, and the skeleton mage had all taken a few steps back to avoid the sight of those inside the mine. The Shadow Assassin had entered stealth mode and was slowly moving into the mine. The 2 high-level elite bandits didn't notice it. The 2 bandit guards quickly turned their gazes. It was late at night, so they couldn't stay focused all the time. The Shadow Assassins sneaked up behind the bandit guards. Whoosh! Blood spurted out from the back of one of the bandit guards. Critical hit and vital strike had dealt 60 points of damage to the bandit guard. Not only that, the bandit guard also had a heavy bleeding effect and a powerful life poison that reduced the bandit guard's HP by a percentage. Enemy attack. The bandit guard who was attacked roared. Along with his roar, a group of skeleton soldiers rushed over. The skeleton army in the Wrathclaw jumped into the mine like dumplings, waving their iron swords and claws as they joined the battle. Their target was the level 7 elite bandit who had been attacked by the Shadow Assassin and whose HP had been reduced sharply. Bai Xiaowen discovered that the level 7 elite bandit's HP was very high. He had withstood the bleeding and poison effects for a full 5 seconds and still had about 50% of his HP remaining. Bai Xiaowen didn't give him a chance to bandage his wounds. He ordered his summoned creatures to join in the attack. However, the injured bandit had no intention of bandaging his wounds. He suddenly pulled out a broadsword and slashed left and right in a ferocious manner. Li Shi dodged the sword and used his combo slash skill to stab the injured bandit at high speed. However, the sword was blocked by a shield shining with silver light. Clang! The bandit leader, Ian, woke up. He had never left his armor. He held a one-handed war hammer in his right hand and a cross shield in his left arm as he joined the battle. His strength was very high. After blocking Li Shi's stab, he suddenly raised his arm, causing Li Shi to stagger backward. "Who are you people? Why are you attacking us?" Ian asked in a low voice. "I should ask you this. What have you done in the Whitestone silver mine?" Bai Xiaowen raised his Desert Eagle and aimed the black muzzle downwards. With a bang, he fired a shot at the injured bandit who was trying to bandage his wound. The bullet was a guaranteed critical hit and dealt 250% headshot damage. The elite bandit guard knelt on the ground, his HP reduced by a large chunk, leaving him with less than 100 HP. Ian was furious. However, he didn't attack immediately. Instead, he tried to reason with them. You were sent by the Red Leaf Lord, March? Is it because I attacked the Whitestone silver mine? The contract didn't say that this place can't be attacked. After a pause, Ian said, retreat immediately. I can pretend that nothing happened. I won't attack the Whitestone silver mine in the future. Go back and tell March that my contract with him is still valid. After hearing Ian's revelations, Bai Xiaowen was immediately energized. However, it was impossible for him to retreat. In fact, Bai Xiaowen raised his hand and shot the injured bandit again. Ian was prepared for the shot. He raised his cross shield and blocked the bullet. What are you trying to do? You're trying to start a war. Chapter 243. Under bandit leader Ian's protection, the injured elite bandit finally finished bandaging himself, and the severe bleeding effect disappeared. Bandit Mr. Ian, your subordinate is right. I'm not March's man. However, I'm very interested in your deal with him. Can you tell me more details before you die? Bai Xiaowen asked politely. Ian's expression turned cold. After I chop off your limbs, I'll satisfy your curiosity. After saying that, Ian took out a bone whistle from his waist and blew it. The shrill sound echoed throughout the cave. This warning bone whistle was more effective than any declaration of war. The skeleton sword shield bearers swarmed forward and surrounded Ian. You think you can stop me with just these filthy creatures? Ian sneered as he swung his hammer horizontally. Bai Xiaowen controlled the skeleton swordsmen to block with their shields and accurately block the hammer. The price they paid was only a step back. Just as Bai Xiaowen was wondering why the hammer of a level 6 bandit with 45 points of strength was so weak, the clear sound of metal clashing rang out. A transparent light wave visible to the naked eye suddenly spread out. All of Bai Xiaowen's summoned creatures, including Li Shui, had their HP reduced by a small amount as long as they were within the range of the light wave. The skeletal shield bearers lost even more HP, while the shadow assassin lost 1/3 of its HP due to the shock effect. Spiritual realm notifications, bandit leader Ian's skill, Holy Hammer has been activated. Holy Hammer was an area of effect attack, and the damage it dealt was of the Holy attribute. It had a bonus effect on undead and demon-type creatures. The summoned creatures and Li Shui besieged the injured elite bandit, but the damage they dealt was greatly reduced. It seemed that the elite bandit's defense had suddenly increased by a notch. Is this the Devout Halo? An aura-type skill that can increase the armor of allies? Bai Xiaowen saw a glowing cross beneath bandit leader Ian's feet. It was flashing with a faint light, and he immediately understood. This bandit leader was a powerful tank-type boss. It would be very difficult to kill his underlings while he was around. This was the reason why Bai Xiaowen had come up with the strategy to break the encirclement one by one. However, the two elite bandit guards also knew the benefits of fighting under the protection of their boss. They didn't leave Ian's side at all. Some of the more lethal attacks were blocked by Ian's cross shield. Ian's block specialty was definitely beyond level 3. The two elite bandit guards were both strong men who wielded two-handed greatswords. Since they didn't have to worry about their own safety, they attacked with their greatswords. Their horizontal and vertical slashes were unstoppable. Bai Xiaowen's skeleton saber shield bearers desperately raised their shields to defend. Although they were able to successfully block most of the attacks, it was difficult for them to withstand the accumulated damage from the shockwaves. Deterrence. Bai Xiaowen revealed his first trump card. Ian and the two elite bandit guards fell into a state of fear. Immediately after, the 4 skeletal shield wielders took a step forward and used shield bash in unison, knocking the injured elite bandit back a few steps. Although he was still within Devotion Halo's effective range, he was already out of bandit leader Ian's melee range. He couldn't use his cross shield to block attacks for his followers. Wrathclaw pounced forward, simultaneously using Tyr and Ren to block the elite bandit's escape route. Elite bandit guards were originally the type that was strong in offense but weak in defense. They had high strength but low in agility and vitality. After Li Shi's attack hit its mark, the powerful life toxin that she had smeared on her weapon once again took effect, causing the injured elite bandit to fall into a poisoned state once again. Although his level was higher and he was immune to some of the low-level toxins, the residual effects would still cause him to lose 12% of his HP for 5 seconds. This elite bandit guard was quite unlucky. After being hit by 2 poison attacks in a row, his HP was almost depleted. Ian, who was under the effect of deterrence, suddenly roared when he saw that his followers were about to fall. "Holy light, grant me courage." A ball of light suddenly burst out from Ian's body. The remaining 2 seconds of fear effect on him was instantly removed. Moreover, there was also a buff called Courage, which made him immune to all fear effects for the next 15 seconds. This was Ian's third skill, Prayer. It was an ability that dispelled crowd control. The moment Ian broke free from the state of fear, he immediately used Shield Bash. The cross shield emitted a mournful whining sound like a train crashing into a wall. A skeleton sword shield bearer blocked with his shield. When the 2 shields collided, the skeleton sword shield bearer was sent flying like a small pebble and turned into scattered bone fragments in midair. This Shield Bash had actually caused more than 100 points of blunt damage. It was simply terrifying. A gap appeared in Ian's encirclement. He quickly rushed over and blocked the follow-up attacks for the injured elite bandit guard with his shield. However, Bai Xiaowen had already achieved her goal by tricking Ian into using Prayer. The remaining 3 skeleton sword shield bearers, together with Li Shi and the Shadow Assassin, attacked the last elite bandit guard who was still in good condition. At this time, the elite bandit guard was still in a state of fear and could not move. As for the elite bandit guard who only had a sliver of HP left, Bai Xiaowen did not let it go either. The skeleton sorcerer used Lightning Throw from afar. The bandit leader Ian's expression changed. He hurriedly raised his shield to block. His shield blocking technique was indeed skillful. Even though Bai Xiaowen's Lightning Throw was supported by Meditation, level 5, it was still blocked without any hesitation. However, Lightning Throw was a spell. It was different from a physical attack. After being blocked by the shield, the electric shock still transmitted through, causing Ian's body to be paralyzed for a moment. The Wrathclaw pounced on Ian like a mad dog and used its ultimate suppressive skill to push him to the ground. At the same time, Bai Xiaowen coldly raised her gun and took away the remaining dozen HP of the injured elite bandit guard with one shot. The Wrathclaw's suppressive skill lasted for 2.5 seconds. Its purpose was not to kill, but to keep Ian occupied and prevent him from rescuing the other elite bandit guard. Under the tight encirclement of the 3 skeleton sword shield bearers, Li Shi and the Shadow Assassin maintained their full damage output. The second elite bandit guard's HP was continuously decreasing. At this moment, the sound of chaotic footsteps could be heard in the tunnel. Obviously, the elite bandit guards living in the tunnel had heard the warning of the bone whistle. They all woke up from their sleep and rushed to the main tunnel where their leader was. After the suppressive effect ended, Ian suddenly flipped the Wrathclaw over and stood up. There were streaks of blood on his fair face, making him look somewhat ferocious. He raised his head and looked at Bai Xiaowen, who was standing above the tunnel entrance. "My subordinates will be here soon." "You're dead." "Not necessarily." Bai Xiaowen stood at the tunnel entrance. He could hear the footsteps more clearly, but he did not turn around. Yes. Heroes were all like this. They could tell the direction by listening to the wind. They had eyes at the back of their heads. Bai Xiaowen's mental scan was more realistic than his eyes. The Wrathclaw was in charge of blocking the attack. It was much weaker than Ian, and this kind of head-on blocking was not its forte. It was knocked back again and again. However, the skeleton sorcerer and Bai Xiaowen were harassing him. The skeleton sorcerer, in particular, threw lightning bolts with great precision, perfectly interrupting Ian's movements. Every time Ian took a step forward, he had to take 2 steps back. He could only watch as the second elite bandit guard was beaten up. He could only roar, "You cowards, stand up and join the battle." Otherwise, When I kill the intruder, I'll hang you up and hang you to death. Ian's words were directed at the ordinary level 2 and level 3 servants. They were not fighters and were very timid. As soon as the battle began, they hugged their heads and cowered in the corner, not daring to move. Under Ian's intimidation, the servants finally mustered up their courage and stood up. They pulled out weapons like daggers and knives from their waists and moved closer to Ian. Bai Xiaowen turned the muzzle of his gun and activated rapid-fire mode. He aimed at a level 3 servant and fired continuously. The level 4 Desert Eagle's muzzle spat out flames, and the level 3 servant was forced to retreat. Blood splattered from his body, and he fell to the ground and died in less than 10 seconds. I am Dior, the suzerain of Whitestone Hill. I'm here on behalf of the Empire to kill the leader of the Black Wind Bandits. The rest of you, put down your weapons. You can save your lives and become my subjects again. Bai Xiaowen said in a deep voice. You lowly servants dare to go against the Empire, and the only outcome is death. Bai Xiaowen used the Empire's name as a banner, but it was actually a lie that could not stand up to scrutiny. However, the remaining servants were also intimidated and did not dare to move forward. Some of the smarter ones simply rolled their eyes and fainted. Useless things. Bandit leader Ian scolded angrily. In the mine tunnel, the elite bandits rushed over and happened to hear Bai Xiaowen's words. Many of them were hesitant. Was the Empire really here to crusade against them? Were they really going to confront the Empire head-on? However, those who were doubtful and did not dare to move forward were basically mid-level bandits. Ian's trusted subordinates, the high-ranking members of the Black Wind Bandits, all shouted and rushed forward. What suzerain? I don't recognize him. Kill him and let Boss Ian be the suzerain. In the main mine, Ian could not get past the Wrath Claw and the Skeleton Mage's obstructions several times in a row. He simply stopped charging and laughed. My brothers are not as weak as these lowly servants. They won't be frightened by you at all. I don't care if you're the suzerain Dior. Go to hell. At worst, I'll leave Whitestone Hill. Bai Xiaowen looked at the tunnel full of elite bandits and found that most of them had rushed over under the instigation of the diehards. Only a small number of bandits were still hesitating and watching, unable to make up their minds. They're all soldiers. I thought I could save some expenses, but now it seems impossible. Bai Xiaowen muttered and suddenly raised his left hand. A red flame condensed in the middle of his palm. Kusanagi-ryu ancient martial art, profound meaning, Shiki Orochi. With a rumble, a magnificent red sea of fire surged out. The flame was 3 meters wide and completely covered the width of the tunnel. The diehards who rushed at the front, Ian's trusted subordinates, were the first to bear the brunt. There was no possibility of dodging at all. They could only bear the burning of the flame head-on. The 2 people in front were even pushed back by the strong impact and were sent flying. Bai Xiaowen's mental strength was now as high as 31 points, which was higher than the bosses like Kikyo and Kusanagi. This also determined that the intensity of his Shiki Oroki's flame was more intense. Of course, the power of Shiki Orochi was not only determined by its burning flames, but also its powerful pushing force. This was determined by its strength. Bai Xiaowen's strength was 18 points, which was much weaker than the bosses in the King of Fighters realm. Overall, the power of his Shiki Orochi was still slightly inferior to Kikyo Kusanagi's. However, it should not be forgotten that this was a tunnel that was only 3 meters wide. The power of Shiki Orochi was condensed and did not dissipate. It was much more destructive than when it was used on the open ground. The raging flames covered an area of 10 by 3 meters and lasted for 3 whole seconds. Even if these bandits were elites, their constitution was no less than 20 points. Some of the high-level elite bandits even had close to 30 points. Most of them were wearing iron armor, leather armor, and so on. Their equipment was considered good, but under Shiki Oroki's 3 seconds of burning, their HP was still greatly reduced. This was because Shiki Oroki's magic damage was only calculated based on magic resistance. After Shiki Oroki's attack, the dozen or so elite bandits who rushed at the front were all left with low HP, losing more than half of their HP. The two unlucky diehards who were sent flying had only a few dozen HP left. Their bodies were charred black. Wizard. He's a wizard. A wizard who can cast spells of this level without chanting. The bandits were stunned. This guy who called himself the Lord in front of them was wearing a hooded black robe. Was he actually a powerful wizard? Many bandits had the intention to retreat. Only a few of Ian's trusted subordinates encouraged them. Don't be scared by him. He's only in his teens. He can't be that strong. He won't use the same spell again. Let's charge and kill this wizard. We'll be rich. These diehards did what they said and did. Although their HP was low, they waved their iron swords and charged again. Bai Xiaowen shook his head. A bunch of stubborn bastards. Turn all of you into boxes. No, become treasure chests. Bai Xiaowen raised his left hand, and the familiar red flames gathered in his palm again. Some of the bandits who were charging with him stopped in a panic. What's going on? Again? Only the diehards shouted, he's bluffing. Don't be afraid. Charge with us. Boom. Chapter 244. Wah 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 wah. A group of elite bandits were burning in the narrow tunnel, especially those loyal bandits and diehards who had low HP to begin with. One by one, they fell in the flames and turned into charred skeletons. Bai Xiaowen's Kusanagi sword could only be recharged once a day. That was true. However, only recharging once did not mean that it could only be used once. The first use of Shiki Orochi that he had just used was recharged in the past. He had not used today's recharge opportunity yet. Bai Xiaowen had recently made a small fortune, so he had plenty of psionic points. After using it, he directly used today's recharge opportunity. He spent 10,000 psionic points to increase the number of uses of Shiki Orochi to 1/1 again. Seeing that the bandits were still stubborn, Bai Xiaowen immediately gave them another barbecue education. The effect of the two powerful Orochi attacks was amazing. The few diehards at the front were directly burned to death. Many of the bandits who followed behind were also seriously injured. All their attributes were reduced by half, and they lost their combat ability. The bandits further away were only affected by Shiki Orochi's power. They lost a few dozen HP, but their combat ability was still there. However, these bandits were not diehards. After seeing the amazing power of Bai Xiaowen's two big moves, the hesitation in their hearts was quickly magnified. They hesitated for a while, not knowing what to do. The key was that Bai Xiaowen's face was not red, and he was not panting after using two big moves in a row. He did not consume any energy at all. This performance undoubtedly made the bandits even more fearful. Who else? Bai Xiaowen's eyes swept over them. As far as his eyes could see, the bandits lowered their heads and retreated. Bai Xiaowen snorted and turned around, his back facing the bandits. Some of the bandits quietly retreated and slipped toward the entrance of the cave. With someone taking the lead, the other bandits who were not strong-willed also retreated. Seeing that he couldn't stay in the cliff mine any longer, it was better to find another place. These bandits were all high-quality talents who could fight on horseback and shoot arrows. They would not have to worry about not being able to find a job in any bandit's nest. If they really couldn't find a job, they could just ask a few friends to work for them. There was no need for them to go against this mysterious and powerful adept. Ian roared angrily, "You bunch of deserters, hurry up and come back here. Whoever dares to escape will be beheaded when I catch them." As soon as he said this, the bandits ran even faster. Bai Xiaowen said calmly, "Mr. Ian, don't even think about dragging your partner into this mess. Just go on your way." "Bah! You can scare those cowards, but you can't scare me." Ian coldly snorted. "You must have used some kind of powerful magic tool to cast that terrifying spell. You don't have that kind of strength. Isn't it your limit that you can release it twice? You want to test me?" Bai Xiaowen sneered. "I don't need that kind of large-scale spell to deal with the two of you. Ian was about to say something when he suddenly heard a scream. It was from one of his elite guards, his loyal follower. While Bai Xiaowen forced the bandits to retreat with 2 shots of Orochi, Li Shui and the others had not been idle. They had been besieging the remaining elite guard. The bandits' attack was strong but his defense was weak. After his attacks were blocked by 3 skeleton swordsmen, his weak defense was exposed to agility professions such as Li Shui and the Shadow Assassin. In just a few seconds, the elite guard's HP had been reduced by half. Damn you! Accept the punishment of justice. Ian suddenly pointed the warhammer in his right hand. Bai Xiaowen, who was at the entrance of the tunnel, suddenly had a bad feeling. In the next second, an illusory warhammer burning with holy fire smashed into his head. The spiritual realm's laws prompted, bandit leader Ian's unknown skill has been activated. Compared to the enemy's spirit, you will be stunned for 6 seconds, the effect of sincere heart has been activated. You will receive a 20% reduction in the control time. The stun effect will last for 8 seconds. The smooth movements and exquisite coordination of Bai Xiaowen's summoned creatures froze for a moment. It was as if there was no one commanding them, and they fell into a stalemate situation where they could only fight on their own. The series of notifications made Bai Xiaowen quietly heave a sigh of relief. So the last skill of the boss is a control skill, and it's used on me. This is good, this is good. Bai Xiaowen's body glowed. He immediately used the green lotus seed, mature, to remove the 5-second stun effect. Fortunately, he was a hero, and his priority was high enough. In addition, the mature green lotus seed also had 3 additional priority points. That was why he was able to remove the stun effect. After all, Ian was also a bandit leader with a hero template. The priority of this stun effect was also as high as level 7. If Ian's target had been Li Shui, Bai Xiaowen would have had to carefully protect Li Shui. After all, her priority was 1 point lower, and she would not be able to remove the stun effect. Of course, Ian had his reasons for attacking Bai Xiaowen. He could tell that Bai Xiaowen was a summoner. The Wrathclaw, Skeleton Mage, and other summoned creatures were all his summoned creatures. It was common knowledge that when a summoner was stunned, the summoned creatures would lose most of their threat. In that instant, Ian had already knocked away the Wrathclaw and was trying to rush toward the last elite bandit guard. However, after Bai Xiaowen removed the stun effect, he immediately ordered the Skeleton Mage to use Lightning Throw to stun Ian and stop him in his tracks. The Wrathclaw had already lost a lot of health points. However, it still charged forward bravely and separated Ian again. This made his rescue attempt useless. Soon, the last elite bandit guard was killed. Now, only bandit leader Ian was left. This level 6 boss was indeed very strong. However, from the way he fought with a one-handed hammer and a shield, it was obvious that he was good at defense. In terms of attack power, Ian was actually not much stronger than the 2 level 7 elite bandit guards. The 3 skeleton sword and shield warriors surrounded Ian. The Wrathclaw roared into the sky and activated its howl skill. Li Shui also activated Devilfire Dance. From afar, Bai Xiaowen activated his pistol's burst shooting mode. The Skeleton Mage also used what little spirit it had left to release Lightning Throw. It could be said that the 2 trump cards, Howl and Devilfire Dance, were prepared for the final attack on Ian. Ian's defense was indeed very strong. His constitution was already as high as 48 points. Coupled with the set of silver armor and the additional defense from the Devout Aura, his total defense was more than 70 points. What did 70 points of defense mean? Bai Xiaowen and Li Shui were only level 3. When they attacked Ian, all physical damage would be forcibly reduced by 70%. Regarding the damage reduction of defense, some people had already figured out the rules of the spiritual realm. It was related to 2 factors. The first factor was the total defense of the attacker, the natural defense from constitution and the additional defense from equipment. The higher the total defense, the higher the percentage of physical damage reduction. The second factor was the level of the attacker. The higher the level of the attacker, the lower the percentage of physical damage reduction. Therefore, high-level awakened ones had a certain advantage when fighting low-level awakened ones. Of course, the effect of this factor was slightly smaller. Bai Xiaowen's Desert Eagle was a gold gun that had been strengthened to +4. Its attack power was definitely not low. However, when the shot hit Ian, the damage was only in the single digits. Fortunately, after activating the burst shooting mode, the rate of fire was very fast. While Bai Xiaowen's spirit was quickly depleted, it also allowed him to temporarily play the role of an agile shooter. Li Shi's single attack was about the same as Bai Xiaowen's. It also did not exceed 10 points. It should be noted that this was the case when the Wrath Claw's Howl skill increased the attack power by 20%. The damage of the Wrath Claw's attack was also greatly reduced. As for the Shadow Assassin, it was even more unsightly. The Skeleton Swordsman? The three of them had basically given up on attacking. Instead, they held their shields with both hands and acted as the front line of the team, using all their strength to block the attacks of the bandit leader, Ian. Fortunately, Ian's defense was high, but his magic resistance was relatively low. When the Skeleton Sorcerer's lightning throw hit him, it still caused close to 20 points of damage. Li Shi's Devil's Flame Dance became the main force of the team's damage output. Streaks of fiery light shot out along with the sword's radiance. Wisps of fire energy accumulated in the body of the bandit leader, Ian. The entire team used every ounce of their strength. Both sides were like taut bowstrings, waiting to see who would break first. With a clang, a skeleton swordsman's HP was depleted. It was smashed into pieces by Ian's hammer. Ian paused for a moment, then swung his hammer horizontally. His target was Li Shi, who posed the greatest threat to him. Li Shi only took a small step to the side. The rapier in his hand pierced forward at high speed without stopping at all. Although this was a one-handed attack, it contained 45 points of Ian's strength. If it hit Li Shi, 7 or 8 of his bones would definitely break and he would lose his ability to fight. Li Shi didn't waste the opportunity to attack by dodging. This was because he had absolute trust in Bai Xiaowen. Another skeletal shield bearer with low HP raised its shield to meet the attack, raising its shield at an angle. Although the skeleton swordsman's defense was ingenious, the difference in strength was too great. The skeleton swordsman's body slid backward, leaving a deep imprint in the stone ground. His bones cracked. Ian stepped forward and smashed the skeleton swordsman with his shield, smashing him into pieces. There were dozens of bloody holes of varying depths on Ian's back. Blood was gushing out. It was a gruesome sight. However, Ian didn't seem to care. The hammer in his right hand emitted a holy light again, smashing the third skeleton swordsman's head into pieces. The last skeleton swordsman's iron shield had long been shattered. However, under Bai Xiaowen's command, it dutifully pounced forward and hugged Ian's hammer. Ian shook it twice but couldn't break free. Realizing that the hammer was too heavy, he gave up on it and punched out with his metal gauntlets. His target was still Li Shi. This time, it was the Shadow Assassin. She had the racial passive ability to reduce physical damage by 50%. She crossed her arms and blocked the punch. However, she was sent flying like a pebble. She crashed into the wall of the mine and slowly slid down. In just a few breaths, Ian's HP had dropped by dozens again. He swung his shield and used Shield Bash again. Bai Xiaowen didn't have much mental strength left. He turned off rapid fire and used deterrence, which had just come off cooldown, to interrupt Ian's action. Good job! Li Shi praised. Ian's Shield Bash was like a train ramming into the enemy. Its single-target damage was terrifying. If he used it successfully, there would be more casualties. Bai Xiaowen drank a mouthful of rice wine and pulled his mental strength back a little. He steadily fired the gun with his right hand and smiled. Calm down. It's just a basic move. For Bai Xiaowen, it was a basic move. For others, it was an ingenious move that could only be interrupted once in 10 times. Finally, Li Shi's dance of devil fire ended. The explosive effect was activated, and the accumulated fire force in Ian's body exploded. "Holy light, protect me!" Sensing the danger, Ian roared angrily, and an eggshell-like light shield covered his body. It was obviously a shield-type skill. However, in the next second, Ian spat out a mouthful of blood. A damage number suddenly appeared on top of his head. 42 points. +7 Blazing Dance's explosive effect. When the accumulated damage is unleashed, it ignores all shields and additional magic resistance. Ian's life points instantly dropped to less than 30 points. He knelt on the ground weakly and tried to cough something out. However, all he coughed out was dark red blood clots. Bai Xiaowen restrained his summoned creatures and Li Shui, waiting for Ian's shield to disappear. Besides, who knew if Ian would suddenly go berserk when he was on the verge of death? There was no need to worry now. Bai Xiaowen could just shoot at him from afar. The bullets hit the surface of the shield, causing ripples to appear. Ian looked up and panted. "You're not the Lord of White Stone Town. That lord doesn't have your strength. Who are you?" "I'm the Lord of White Stone Town, but I'm not the one you know," Bai Xiaowen said as he stopped shooting. Ian seemed to understand something. He gave up fighting and sat on the ground. "You must be curious. Why did I, a knight, end up as a bandit?" Ian suddenly sighed sadly and shook his head. "This was not my intention. It's just that I can no longer turn back. I hope the Holy Light will forgive me. If the Holy Light forgives you, then there's no justice to speak of." Bai Xiaowen curled his lips. Regardless of their positions, he really did not care about Ian. Ian was not a chivalrous bandit who robbed the rich to help the poor. He did not even have a conscience if he could do such a thing to White Stone Town. Ian smiled bitterly and said, Maybe. Lord Dior, I beg you to gather the Black Wind bandits under my command and guide them to the path of justice. This is something I can't do." The shield on Ian's body slowly dissipated, and his body collapsed. A notification came from the spiritual realm. Bandit leader Ian lost 12 life points. Bandit leader Ian lost 15 life points. Ian died. Chapter 245. Along with Ian's death, Bai Xiaowen also received a series of notifications, all of which were related to the change in favorability and reputation. What interested Bai Xiaowen the most was that Lord March of the Red Leaf Territory's favorability towards him had decreased. However, the decrease was not significant and was currently at the level of indifference. In addition to the treasure chest dropped by Ian, the 2 level 7 elite bandit guards each dropped a large silver treasure chest. As for the few elite bandits killed by Bai Xiaowen's Orochi at the entrance of the tunnel, they also dropped 2 medium-sized silver treasure chests. Bai Xiaowen's Black Soul Stone's growth rate had soared. It was now at the growth rate and had 173 points of soul essence. It seemed that it wouldn't be long before the Black Soul Stone reached level 4. In addition, Bai Xiaowen's combat experience had also exceeded 60%. The rewards from killing Ian and the level 7 elite bandits were quite generous. However, this battle was also very difficult, mainly reflected in the loss of summoned creatures. 3 of the 4 skeleton sword shielders were killed. The Wrathclaw only had 1/3 of its HP left, and the Shadow Assassin also had less than half of its HP left. Fortunately, there were no casualties. The skeleton sword shielders could be summoned again after 12 hours. Time is of the essence. "Let's not open the treasure chests first," Bai Xiaowen said. "The bandits are now scattered, but we've given the horses laxatives in advance, so they can't run away. We'll go rescue the hostages first, then we'll look at the situation and recruit as many soldiers as we can." Li Shui nodded. The 2 of them collected the treasure chests and then rushed to the mine in the North District without stopping. Although the battle with bandit leader Ian was fierce, it only took a few minutes. There was still time to rescue the hostages and recruit the bandits. Bai Xiaowen had already memorized the map of the mine with his abnormal memory. Now that they were rushing to the North District, they didn't have to worry about being discovered by the bandits. The 2 of them hurried and soon arrived at the mine in the North District. There was no one in the mine. Only the dim yellow light of the torches flickered gently. Have the hostages been taken away? Li Shi asked worriedly. That guard called Old Matt is not here either. Bai Xiaowen frowned and said, logically speaking, that shouldn't be the case. The bandit leader has been killed, and everyone is in a state of panic. Who would care about a hostage? He walked into the pit, trying to find some clues. Suddenly, a slightly immature female voice sounded, "You don't have to look for me, I'm here." The voice came from above. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi looked up and couldn't help laughing. It turned out that there was a chain hanging down from the top of the mine. The hostage was locked in a cage at the end of the chain, hanging about 2 meters high. Don't you guys have any sympathy? Why are you laughing at me like this? The iron cage shook slightly. 2 small hands grabbed the iron bars and shook them vigorously, showing that the owner of the small hands was very angry. Stop shaking. Don't you feel dizzy? Bai Xiaowen laughed. He quickly found a winch mechanism at the corner of the wall and turned it forcefully. The iron cage was lowered with the creaking sound of the chains. Who are you? Why were you captured by the Black Wind bandits? Bai Xiaowen asked as he turned the winch. I'm an apprentice knight. I've heard about the crimes of the Black Wind bandits from refugees who have no one to rely on. I'm here to crusade against them on behalf of justice. Ouch! The iron cage suddenly lost control when it was half a meter above the ground and fell freely to the ground with a clang. Bai Xiaowen quickly apologized with a smile, I'm sorry. My hand slipped at the last part. Since you saved me, I'll forgive you. A muffled voice came from the cage. Soon, the iron cage opened and a blue-haired girl bent over and poked her head out. With a plop, the blue-haired girl lay on the stone floor like a wild goose landing on the sand. Are you hurt? Li Shi asked in shock. No. I'm not hurt. My legs are numb. The blue-haired girl was wearing a layer of cool armor that was more decorative than practical. She struggled to get up from the ground with her hands. She could only tilt her head and reach out her hand to Li Shi. Help me. The shadow assassin stepped forward and grabbed the girl's hand to pull her up. The girl screamed, filthy undead creature. She wanted to withdraw her hand, but she was afraid that she would fall again. She hesitated. Don't worry. This is my summoned creature. It won't hurt you, Bai Xiaowen assured her. The blue-haired girl screamed again, You despicable necromancer. The shadow assassin decisively withdrew her hand. The blue-haired girl staggered and was about to fall. Fortunately, Li Shi stepped forward and held her. Thank you. Li Shi could only apologize on behalf of Bai Xiaowen and clarify, he's a multi-species summoner, not a simple necromancer. Besides, we're doing a righteous thing. We just killed the leader of the Black Wind bandits. The blue-haired girl was shocked. Bai Xiaowen shook his head and said, It's enough to save her. Let's go and stop those bandits. He strode out of the cave with the Wrath Claw and other summoned creatures. Li Shi supported the blue-haired trainee knight and followed him. They chatted for a while and told each other about their identities. The blue-haired girl's name was Bonita. She was a trainee knight of the Church of Holy Light. She was here to carry out a trainee knight mission. After she completed it, she would be promoted to an official knight. Is your mission to eliminate the Black Wind bandits? It's a difficult mission. Li Shi was a bit surprised. No, it's not like that. My apprentice mission is to deliver a letter. Bonita lowered her head. I've already delivered the letter. On my way back, I suddenly saw a few poor refugees in rags. After asking them, I found this place. Bai Xiaowen, who was walking in front, also heard these words and secretly laughed in his heart. Bonita was a girl who had read too many night novels. She must have some background. The Church of Holy Light didn't want her to carry out a difficult trainee mission. It was just a simple mission to deliver a letter. However, this girl had overestimated herself and ran to the biggest bandit nest in Whitestone Town. She was a perfect example of someone who had a death wish. Luckily, the leader of the Black Wind Bandits, Ian, wasn't a normal bandit. Otherwise, this girl named Bonita would have become the bandit's sex toy. The bandit's thirst was undeniable. It could be seen from the bandit named Kits. However, after rescuing Bonita, Bai Xiaowen finally received a notification. Side mission, rescue, completed. Mission objective, rescue the hostages in the northern pit of Cliff Mine. Current progress, 1/1. Chapter 246. Bai Xiaowen questioned the rules of the spiritual realm, but he didn't get a response. Bai Xiaowen thought for a moment and turned to the blue-haired girl, Burita. Hey, you're a knight. You should know how to repay a favor, right? Burita's blue eyes widened. How can you do this? It's a knight's duty to save girls in distress. How can you ask for a reward like this? Bai Xiaowen snorted. Come on. I'm not a knight. According to what you just said, I'm a despicable necromancer. Bai Xiaowen emphasized the word despicable. Burita's face reddened. Fortunately, the mine was dark and she couldn't see clearly. She said anxiously, but I don't have money, there was a way. Bai Xiaowen cheered up. He figured out some of the rules of the rewards for side quests in the spiritual realm. Quests with unknown rewards like this needed the awakened to fight for the rewards after completion. For example, when Bai Xiaowen met Liu Bei for the first time in the Three Kingdoms realm, he proposed to give Guan Yu and Zhao Yun's guidance as a reward, but he was rejected. After that, Bai Xiaowen proposed to decipher the Book of Spells as a reward, and he was accepted. Of course, a big shot like Liu Bei knew how to deal with people. He didn't need Bai Xiaowen to ask for a reward. As for this dumb Burita, if Bai Xiaowen didn't mention it, she might have passed the quest in a daze. This side quest could only give Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi some combat experience. It was basically a waste of time. Actually, Bai Xiaowen did it in passing. He only spent a little time and didn't put in much effort. According to the rules of the spiritual realm, Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi should sneak into the northern mine to rescue Burita first. Then, Burita would offer to fight side by side with Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi to defeat bandit leader Ian. Bonita's participation in the battle was a reward for the side mission, rescue. Moreover, based on the clues he had gathered so far, Bai Xiaowen had a vague feeling that Ian was not a boss that must be killed. After all, if it were any other awakened, even if they were 1 or 2 levels higher, they might not be able to kill Ian with 2 level 7 elite bandit guards present. Not to mention, Ian had blown the bone whistle immediately, and dozens of elite bandits had rushed over to provide support. The difficulty of this mission had already surpassed the difficulty of an S-rank elite mission. If it wasn't for Bai Xiaowen's Kusanagi sword, he would have been able to kill a few of Ian's henchmen and scare off the other bandits. It would have been hard to say who would have won in the end. If Li Shi and Li Shi had saved Burita, this apprentice knight might have been able to persuade Ian directly. At least, it would have made the battle much easier. However, Bai Xiaowen didn't take the normal path. After killing Ian, he turned around to save Burita. In this case, Burita would have no reward for Bai Xiaowen. These speculations flashed through Bai Xiaowen's mind for 0.2 seconds. Ian was dead, so it was meaningless to talk about this now. Seeing that Burita was trying to fool him, Bai Xiaowen wouldn't be fooled. He said decisively, if you don't have money, you can use treasures as collateral. For example, your weapons and equipment. Burita's eyes widened. A knight's sword is more important than my life. Even the bandits didn't take my sword. You're not more important than the bandits. Stop. Bai Xiaowen walked closer to the entrance of the cave. He could already see the backs of a few bandits carrying small bags as they hurriedly ran out of the cave. He turned around and told Burita the truth. If you don't have enough gold coins, you can leave your sword and armor. Choose one option, apprentice knight. Li Shi tried to smooth things over. Brother Xiao, Burita is really pitiful. She doesn't have money. Taking a knight's sword and armor is like taking her life. Burrito shrank behind Li Shi's back and nodded hard. How about this? We can let Miss Burrito stay with us for a while. Next, we'll clean up the bandits in Whitestone region. Miss Burrito can fight as compensation. Li Shi said. Bai Xiaowen looked at Burrito with suspicion. She doesn't look like a capable person. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been caught by Ian. Burrito shrieked, nonsense. I'm very powerful. I've always been in the top 10 among all the apprentice knights who graduated this year. Bai Xiaowen curled his lips. Okay. I'll trust you this time. But you have to save me at least once to call it even. Otherwise, you'll always owe me, a despicable necromancer, a life. Got it? Burrito curled her lips. I don't want to owe you a life. I'll fight hard. The spiritual realm's rules reminded him. Burrito, Knight of Divine Grace, wants to join your territory. Do you accept? Burrito, Knight of Divine Grace, has a lower favorability towards you. Current favorability level, normal. After Bai Xiaowen accepted her, the number of troops in his territory increased from 0 to 1. He also received Burrito's detailed information. Burrito, Elite Level 4, Race, Humanoid/Human, Profession, Knight of Divine Grace, Attributes, STR 14, DEX 10, Constitution 15, Spirit 22, Skills, Divine Hand, Seal of Protection, Divine Grace. Other than the basic information, the detailed information also included Burrito's combat specialties and the attributes of some of her main equipment, armor and weapons. These were things that could not be seen through insight. What surprised Bai Xiaowen was that Burrito was a spellcaster-type knight. She had an advanced level 5 mastery of light spells. She was also good at close combat. She had a level 4 close combat skill and a level 4 single-handed sword skill. These 3 skills were all good. Divine Hand was a small skill with a short cooldown. It could be used as a damage spell or a healing spell to recover health. It was very versatile. Seal of Protection allowed an ally to be immune to priority 6 and below physical attacks for a short period of time. Descent of God's Grace was an ultimate skill that allowed all allies to recover their health points and strengthen their armor. I've earned a lot. Bai Xiaowen praised in his mind. Burrito, the Knight of Divine Grace, was a powerful healer, even though she was not that smart. The 3 of them arrived at the entrance of the mine. The bandit camp was in a mess. Some of the faster bandits had already escaped, but most of them were still packing their bags and planning to escape. The ones who were most afraid were the coachmen, cooks, blacksmiths, and other servants. They were not like the other bandits who could just find a place to join. They were hesitant. At the stable, more than a dozen elite bandits were fighting with each other. They each led a horse and jumped onto it in a hurry. However, tragedy struck after a few steps. The first horse fell to the ground with a whinny. Some unknown substance flowed out of its butt. The elite bandit also fell to the ground. As if a switch had been turned on, a chain reaction was triggered. The other horses all fell to the ground. The stench around the stable was overwhelming. There are so many bandits. How are we going to recruit them? Li Shi asked in a low voice. Whether it's forcing a good girl to become a prostitute or persuading people to turn from evil to good, it's just a carrot and a stick. Bai Xiaowen confidently led Li Shi all the way to the wooden gate of the bandit camp. We killed the bandit leader, Ian, and showed our strength. Next, we'll lure them with benefits. At this point, Bai Xiaowen suddenly raised his voice. His voice rang in the chaotic camp. You bunch of useless scum. The chaotic camp quieted down in an instant. The ordinary bandits who were packing their bags, the elite bandits who were studying the horses, and the bandit servants who were at a loss raised their heads and looked in the direction of the voice. A few bad-tempered elite bandits had already reached for their swords, intending to make this ungrateful guy bleed. However, when they saw Bai Xiaowen's hooded sorcerer's robe, the appearance in the eyes of the spirit world's people, many people fell into fear. Did you see that? It's this sorcerer. He killed Ian. So fast? I thought that even if Ian couldn't defeat him, he would still be able to hold on for a while. This sorcerer is terrifyingly powerful. He can release hellish flames with a raise of his hand. He burned Galben and Eden to death. Ian can't compare to him in terms of magic power. It's normal that he died. What should we do? Now that he's blocking the gate, I don't think he's going to let us go. The elite bandits had no intention of provoking him. The ordinary bandits, on the other hand, were even more afraid to step forward after hearing about Bai Xiaowen's terrifying strength from others. Many of them glanced at the low fence of the camp. A fence of this height was basically useless to them. It's fine if the gate is blocked. There are only a few of you. You can't block the entire wall of the camp. This was what many bandits were thinking. After gaining the upper hand, Bai Xiaowen began to introduce himself. I am the Lord of Whitestone Town, Baron Diorsi Kale Boom. You bastards, scoundrels, fellows who are only fit to rot in a cesspool, listen up. This time, I represent the Empire. Exterminate you all. Your leader, Ian, has already been executed by me. A few obstinate fellows tried to resist, but they were also burned to ashes. According to the laws of the Empire, I should have hung all of you maggots to dry, but Whitestone Town doesn't have that many flagpoles. Now, I'll give you all a chance to turn over a new leaf. Accept my changes and become my personal guards. That's right, from a bandit to a guard. From now on, you don't have to live in this cold, stinking cave anymore. Those who are willing to accept my changes, get over here and kneel in front of me. Bai Xiaowen took out the heavy money box from his storage space and poured out a large pile of gold coins. A low murmur sounded from the group of bandits, and there was even the sound of someone swallowing their saliva. Bai Xiaowen's voice had an added evil charm under the temptation of the gold coins, making it hard to resist. The first 10 people to kneel here will receive a reward of 10 gold coins. The people behind can only receive 2 each. Now, start choosing. Don't force me to take back this temporary kindness. The sound of saliva swallowing became louder. A bandit mustered up his courage and asked, "How do we know if we should believe you? What if you turn against us after we surrender? Aunt, your life is now in my hands. You have no right to argue." Bai Xiaowen said sinisterly. You lowly maggots are not worth my effort to fabricate lies. If I want to kill you, it's as easy as moving my fingers. At this moment, a tall and thin bandit sneaked towards the fence, intending to climb over and escape. Behind him, there were a few other bandits who were eager to give it a try. Looks like someone is testing my patience. Bai Xiaowen sneered and suddenly activated deterrence. With Bai Xiaowen as the center, an awe-inspiring pressure spread out. The bandits in the camp felt a bone-chilling fear, and they couldn't even move a finger. The 2-star mutated skill, deterrence, was as useful as Haoshiku Haki. Moreover, there was the bonus of Bai Xiaowen's overlord status. The bandits who were slightly weaker were frightened for nearly 10 seconds. The bandit who tried to climb the fence froze in place, not daring to move an inch. Bai Xiaowen raised his hand, raised his gun, and calmly aimed. There was a dead silence. It was as suffocating as the few seconds before the death row was shot on the execution ground. Bang! Blood spurted out from the bandit's forehead, and he fell on his back. Bai Xiaowen put away his desert eagle and said leisurely, "Now, who else has objections to my words?" In fact, Bai Xiaowen had played a trick. The bandit was a level 6 bandit. Although he was a normal bandit, his HP was still more than 150 points, and his armor was at least a dozen points. Even if Bai Xiaowen's Desert Eagle hit the bandit's forehead, as long as the single damage did not reach 1/3 of the bandit's maximum HP, it would not trigger an instant kill, unless it was a critical hit. With the +4 special effect of the Desert Eagle, even an elite bandit would be instantly killed. However, Bai Xiaowen's dexterity was not high, and his critical hit rate was very low. He had just gotten out of combat not long ago, and Yamazaki Ruji's combat gloves only had a cumulative critical hit rate of about 5%. It was impossible to achieve a 100% critical hit rate. The reason why he was able to instantly kill the bandit was because of the Shadow Assassin's stealth plus assassination combo. However, Bai Xiaowen wanted to create the illusion that he was strong enough to crush the bandits. If he wanted to take someone's life, he had to do it with a flick of his finger. Therefore, the Shadow Assassin could not be exposed. At the same time that the bandit fell to the ground, Bai Xiaowen used mental link to control the Shadow Assassin to lie down at the same time. The Shadow Assassin was an undead creature of the soul race. Under the cover of the night, it was even harder to detect. Bai Xiaowen's posturing was undoubtedly a huge success. Under the stimulation of the gold coins, a bandit servant suddenly rushed forward and knelt in front of Bai Xiaowen. Chapter 247. Bai Xiaowen could sense from the fluctuations of the psionic force field that this guy's strength wasn't that great. He was only at the standard of an ordinary level 3. However, Bai Xiaowen nodded to express his appreciation. Very good, stand up. Go and receive 10 gold coins. This is the reward you deserve. From now on, you are an official guard of the White Stone Hill. Harvey's originally nervous heart calmed down, and he kissed Bai Xiaowen's boots. Yes, Sir Lord. With one leader, there would be others who would follow suit. After all, the first 10 people could receive a heavy reward of 10 gold coins. This was not a small sum. Soon, another 2 or 3 people slowly walked out of the crowd. They walked faster and faster, and soon threw themselves at Bai Xiaowen's feet, kneeling down to pledge their loyalty. The first few people to surrender were all bandit servants. However, there was one exception. Sir Dior, my name is Kitz. From now on, I will be your most loyal servant. Your will is my direction. Bai Xiaowen smiled. This was the first elite bandit to surrender. The guy who had peed when he had sneaked into the mine had the strength of a level 5 elite. He nodded. Go and receive 10 gold coins. You will be a candidate for the captain of my guards. Soon, the ordinary bandits and even the elite bandits couldn't hold back anymore. With a whoosh, they rushed over and knelt in front of Bai Xiaowen. Voices of loyalty rose and fell one after another. However, in the midst of the chaos, a burly bandit who had knelt suddenly jumped up and slashed at Bai Xiaowen with his sword. Sir Lord, be careful. Kitz, Harvey, and the other bandits who had just surrendered cried out in alarm. It was hard to tell whether they were sincere or not. Bai Xiaowen snorted. After obtaining the flame bloodline, he was no longer the kind of ordinary summoner who was weak in close combat and helpless in close combat. He raised his hand and drew an arc wave-like flame swam close to the ground and directly hit the burly bandit. The ancient martial art of the grass sect, Dark Brush. Bai Xiaowen had practiced this move many times and could be said to be very skilled. At this time, under the situation of being attacked, he could still use it smoothly and freely. Moreover, when Bai Xiaowen used Dark Whisk, he had a strange feeling. He had a spiritual connection with Crimson Fire that was stronger than before. It's probably because I've used Orochi twice, so I'm getting more and more familiar with the flame bloodline. Bai Xiaowen suddenly understood. Although Bai Xiaowen's speed was limited by his agility attribute and his movement speed was not fast, he was very close to the burly bandit and hit him directly. The brawny man let out a miserable cry as his body was enveloped in a layer of dark red flames, and he was sent flying backwards. Bai Xiaowen's spirit attribute was one of the main attributes that determined the power of Dark Brush. Therefore, this attack directly burned off more than 30 of the bandit's HP. Angry Claw stretched out its head and grabbed the bandit with its huge mouth. It slammed the bandit onto the ground, causing the bandit to become dizzy. It then used its bite skill and bit off one of the bandit's arms. How stubborn. Bai Xiaowen shook his head. It seemed that not all of Ian's loyal subordinates were dead. This bandit was a normal level 6 and not an elite. He did not have the right to live in the mine and escape death. The bandit endured the pain and roared, "You bunch of cowards! Have you forgotten how Boss Ian usually treats you?" Bai Xiaowen crossed his arms and coldly scanned the crowd. In fact, he was a little scared. If these bandits really came at them together, he, Li Shi, and Bonita would definitely not be able to stop them. They could only run for their lives. However, he could not panic now. If someone saw through him, it would be over. The prerequisite for stealing chickens was to know how to pretend. You could not be a big shot, but you had to make others believe you were a big shot. Bai Xiaowen calmly scanned the crowd, as if looking for the bandits' accomplices. Kit suddenly stepped forward and stabbed his sword into the bandit's chest. "Damn you, Boris," he cursed, "if you want to die, don't drag us down with you." The white knife went in and the red knife came out. The bandit was no longer breathing. Kit knelt down heavily and lowered his head to raise the blood-stained sword above his head. "My lord," he said loudly, "I use the blood on this sword to prove my loyalty." "Well done, Kits." Bai Xiaowen nodded slightly. "How many of Ian's loyal subordinates are hiding among you? How many of you want to avenge him? Everyone, identify at least one of Ian's subordinates, or die." As soon as he said this, the bandits' lair exploded. These bandits were not usually united. As the largest bandit group in Whitestone Town, it would be strange if they did not have internal strife. Although Bai Xiaowen had asked them to identify Ian's accomplices, these immoral fellows did not care so much. They would point at whoever they did not see eye to eye with. After a period of chaos, Bai Xiaowen coughed, and the scene quieted down. You, and you." Bai Xiaowen pointed at 3 bandits. "You 3 have been pointed out the most?" In the chaotic situation just now, only Bai Xiaowen's observation and memory could calculate who had been pointed out the most. One of them cursed loudly, and the other 2 wanted to beg for mercy. Bai Xiaowen did not care so much. He directly ordered the bandits to hack the 3 to death. Although there was no specific investigation, and it was a bit arbitrary to kill people based on their identification, Bai Xiaowen did not have the time to go deep into the grassroots. If they died unjustly, then so be it. Which temple did not have a few ghosts who died unjustly? Even from the perspective of good or bad relationships, the 3 bandits were not very good. More importantly, the group of bandits had all raised their swords to kill Ian's accomplices. With this proof of their allegiance, Bai Xiaowen felt more at ease using them. Next, Bai Xiaowen counted the number of bandits. There were a total of 12 elite bandits, 36 ordinary bandits, and 53 servants, a total of 101 people. Now, let's divide into groups. 5 people in a group, a total of 20 groups. You are free to group yourselves. I'll give you 30 seconds. The first bandit servant to surrender, Harvey, asked fearfully, "My lord, what should we do with the extra person?" Do I need to say more?" Bai Xiaowen smiled evilly. "There are still 25 seconds. Harvey shrunk his head and hurriedly went to find a group. However, he was the first to surrender, so many bandits looked down on him. Coupled with his lowly status as a servant, he could not find a group for a while. Soon, the 20 groups were divided. The most unlucky one was Harvey, who did not join any of the groups. Harvey knelt in front of Bai Xiaowen and said miserably, "My lord, please spare my life. I am 100% loyal to you." Bai Xiaowen asked, "Harvey, what do you usually do?" Harvey replied, I used to be a traveling merchant. I usually do appraisal and valuation work in the bandit group." Chapter 248. The group of bandits was about to explode. Kits gathered his courage and asked, "Sir Dior, wasn't the extra person supposed to be killed?" Bai Xiaowen sneered, "Did I say that?" Kits quickly shook his head. Bai Xiaowen really hadn't said that, but that evil smile at the time, plus the fresh blood of the 3 bandits that had been hacked to death, made everyone think in that direction. Bai Xiaowen wouldn't do that. It was because all the bandits were ostracizing Harvey that Bai Xiaowen was able to use him without worry. He didn't need a steward who was on good terms with all the bandits. After being isolated this time, Harvey and the bandits were bound to be estranged, and it was impossible for them to collude to deceive their leader. Of course, this was a small matter. Even if Harvey was disloyal, he he was just an ordinary level 2 weakling, and he wouldn't be able to cause much trouble. The first order Bai Xiaowen gave Harvey was to record the groups of the 100 bandits. Kits asked again, "Sir Lord, are we going to fight according to this group in the future?" "Of course not." Bai Xiaowen smiled again, but this time his smile was truly evil. "Your group of 5 is called the Joint Punishment Team. Do you know what joint punishment is? If one of you betrays, the other 4 are all guilty. However, reporting the betrayer is a merit, and you will be rewarded handsomely." All the bandits looked at each other. Because the groups were free to form, all the bandits huddled together for warmth, and the teammates they chose were all brothers who were relatively close to each other. Once this joint punishment rule came out, it was really terrible. The bandits, who were originally free and unrestrained, all felt a heavy shackle on their hearts. Moreover, Bai Xiaowen couldn't let the bandits in the same group act together. He chose one person from each of the 20 groups to form the first group, and another person to form the second group. So on and so forth, each group had 20 people, forming 5 groups. In this way, the 5 people who were close to each other in each group were separated into 5 groups, and the possibility of them conspiring to escape or betray was greatly reduced. These 5 groups of 20 people were the normal operational groups. Bai Xiaowen promoted a few more captains. Keats became the captain of the first team, and the first team was an elite team that Bai Xiaowen had specially selected. Half of them were elite bandits, and the other half were level 4 to 6 intermediate regular bandits. Having taken care of this, Bai Xiaowen ordered Kits to lead the first team and tear down the wooden camp outside the cliff mine. He led the other 4 groups of bandits into the mine again and looted everything in the cave. Bai Xiaowen's 400 gold coins were all used as carrots to lure the bandits. This time, he went straight to the main pit where Ian was and searched carefully to make up for his losses. However, after a round of searching, Bai Xiaowen was a little discouraged. Ian, the bandit leader, was a little too poor. He only had a few dozen gold coins, and the rest were gold tools, silver ornaments, and other items that had yet to be sold. According to Harvey's estimation, these gold and silver items were only worth 100 gold coins. Bai Xiaowen put these items into his storage space. On the main page, the gold coins column had shrunk significantly, leaving only 47 gold coins. However, the number of troops under Bai Xiaowen's command had increased greatly, directly reaching 102 people. The spiritual realm had already sent a notification: frowny face main mission, enlist your army. The completion conditions have been met. You can lead your army to the Black Lava territory after being knighted, and report to Governor Hawk and submit the mission. Now that Bai Xiaowen had some free time, he did some research. Isn't the main mission's requirement to have 2 elite level 3 knights and above? I only have 1 knight under me now. Why does the notification say that I've met the requirements? The spiritual realm's rules gave a response this time. Knight is only a title, and does not specifically refer to the knight profession. As long as you have 2 elite level 3 and above soldiers with complete weapons and armor, as well as 15 auxiliary soldiers with leather armor, you will have met the basic requirements of the mission. As the Lord, you can divide a small piece of territory, and confer your subordinates with elite level 3 and above soldiers, and promote them to knights. Bai Xiaowen nodded. Do you want to confer the title of a bandit first to complete the main mission? Li Shi asked. Bai Xiaowen shook his head and said, there's no rush for now. After looting the mine, Bai Xiaowen led the original bandits, who were now the White Stone Town Guards, out of the mine. At this time, the first team had already dismantled the wooden camp, and a lot of wood was scattered all over the ground. Bai Xiaowen's expression became serious. Keats! Here! Keats quivered, and his original idea of taking credit flew out of his head. This wood is an important resource. Who allowed you to carelessly throw it away? Now organize the wood for me, and transport it back to White Stone Town along with all the supplies in the camp. Ah! Keats' expression fell. My lord, we don't have a caravan, how can we transport it? Bai Xiaowen snorted. Carry it back. Keats, it's time to test your loyalty and ability. I don't need a mediocre and incompetent guard captain. Keats had originally wanted to haggle a bit, but after hearing this, he quivered again. Yes, my lord. Your will be 100% carried out. Afterwards, Keats turned to his former bandit colleagues and revealed a ferocious expression. Brothers, listen up. Whether you use your hands to carry it, or your shoulders to carry it, even if you use your mouth to hold it, you must transport the supplies back to the territory. No one is allowed to slack off. Some of the bandits looked at Keats, who was like a fox pretending to be a tiger, and felt resentful in their hearts, cursing endlessly in their minds. However, with the mysterious and powerful Magus by Xiaowen watching from behind, no one dared to resist Keats, and no one dared to escape. Not to mention the shackles of the system, even if they could ignore their 4 companions and choose to escape, how could they escape? They would still be killed by the Magus Lord. However, the strength of these bandits was still very great. Even the weakest bandit servant had around 10 points of strength, and was able to lift up a log used as a roof beam effortlessly. As for those elite bandits, they were used by Keats as human locomotives. Each of them dragged a large pile of wood, following the mountain path and majestically descending the mountain. Bai Xiaowen was very satisfied with Keats' abilities. Chapter 249. A large group of men and horses returned to White Stone Town. The citizens of White Stone Town were panicking at first, but when they saw that this team was not bandits, but a convoy of people transporting supplies, their panic faded a lot and was replaced by curiosity. They came forward one after another and watched with great vigor. Bai Xiaowen stood on top of a pile of wood and gave a speech. My people, from today onwards, your miserable lives will never return. Look at these people, they used to be members of the Black Wind Bandits, the largest bandit group in town. But now, they have been reformed by me and have become the glorious soldiers of the White Stone Town Construction Legion. Yes, the leader of the Black Wind Bandits, Ian, has been executed. This evil bandit group has become the dust of history. This is only the beginning. Next, we will capture and incorporate more bandits to enrich the White Stone Town Construction Legion. We will build a large number of houses for the homeless refugees and wanderers to live in. We will cultivate more farmland for the farmers who have lost their land to cultivate. We will open up trade routes for more traveling caravans to trade with us in exchange for necessities. I, the Lord of White Stone Town, Dior Kale Bloom, am a man of my word. Any White Stone Town citizen who has no home and has to endure the cold winds of the north can apply to my butler, Harvey, to build a wooden house. Among the crowd, the silver miner Anton could not hold back his excitement. He walked over and knelt in front of Bai Xiaowen. We will always remember your strength and kindness, my lord. Anton originally had a side mission to exterminate the Black Wind Bandits. He did not expect that Bai Xiaowen would rush to the cliff mine and take down the rampant Black Wind Bandits in one fell swoop, although he had refused the mission on the surface. After receiving Anton's favorability notification, Bai Xiaowen jumped down from the pile of wood and nodded. Harvey, Anton, the White Stone silver mine worker, had his home burned by the Black Wind Bandits recently. Let him be the first family to apply to build a wooden house. Harvey had already recovered from his shock and replied loudly, yes, my lord. Mr. Anton will definitely have the strongest wooden house in White Stone Town. Anton was so excited that tears filled his eyes. He knelt down and kissed Bai Xiaowen's shoes. With Ndong as an example, the other citizens rushed forward and applied to build wooden houses. For a moment, Harvey was flustered. My lord, we don't have any food and have to endure hunger every day, one of the citizens said boldly. Can you give us the wooden house in exchange for food? Kits glared. You've received the Lord's grace and you're still not satisfied? Are you bargaining here? Bai Xiaowen already had a plan for this. He smiled and raised his hand, saying, don't be nervous. There will be wooden houses and food. Any healthy citizen can apply to join the White Stone Town Construction Corps and work in exchange for rations. Currently, the 5 units under the construction army were all bandits, and their composition was the same. Bai Xiaowen intended to recruit a group of citizens and add them to the construction army. This way, he would be more at ease. In the near future, Bai Xiaowen had already formulated a development plan. That was to use war to support war, incorporate other bandit lairs, and use the seized money to buy food to support the army. This method was of course not a long-term plan. Once the bandit lairs were swept clean, the White Stone Town territory that lacked continuous income would inevitably fall into a predicament of money and food shortage. However, that was already a matter for many days. Besides, after Bai Xiaowen recruited a certain number of troops, he intended to go to the Black Rock defense line. When the time came to join the Human Race Alliance army, would there be any need to worry about food? That was non-existent. After this speech, Bai Xiaowen, the Lord, could be considered to have gained a lot of face in White Stone Town. His Lord page had also changed. The population column had increased from the original 7 to 183, and the number was still constantly jumping. This meant that the number of citizens who were willing to listen to his orders and be influenced by his influence was increasing. In the building materials column, the number displayed was 36. This was the wood materials that were dismantled from the Black Wind bandit camp. After checking, the number of 36 meant that it was enough to build 36 wooden houses. The food column increased to 783. This was also the food stockpiled from the Black Wind bandit camp. It was enough to support the construction army for a few days. Of course, now was the time to consider the matter of buying food. The people's sentiment column had increased to 15. Bai Xiaowen could not help but sigh. The citizens were really easy to satisfy. The livability suddenly increased to 13, an increase of 10 points. This was enough to show that the Black Wind bandit group had a large influence on White Stone Town territory. What did not change was the prosperity, which was still at 5 points. However, when the food trade line was established, there would be caravans coming, and the prosperity would definitely increase. Bai Xiaowen left Kitz, Bonita, Harvey and the others to maintain order, while he and Li Shi entered the Lord's mansion. The treasure chest for killing Ian and his elite bandits had not been opened yet. Bai Xiaowen first opened Ian's golden treasure chest. The battle score was A, and there were a total of 10 golden cards. There were 3 draws that would not be empty. However, before he could draw, Bai Xiaowen received a notification: you received a special item, Ian's diary. This item will definitely drop, and it will not enter the loot draw list. Bai Xiaowen narrowed his eyes. This bandit leader Ian is indeed not an ordinary bandit. There is something else going on. Bai Xiaowen opened the diary and skimmed through it. On the title page of the diary, there was a paragraph: frowny face I, Ian Benedict, swear to be loyal to the holy light forever. I will always practice the path of a knight until the end of my life. Li Shi frowned. This paragraph is really strange. When Ian became a bandit, didn't he feel ashamed looking at this diary every day? Bai Xiaowen flipped to the next page. A lot of the diary was torn, and the remaining pages were records of robbing a certain place on a certain date. However, when he looked at the records, Bai Xiaowen found some suspicious points. For example, one of the pages was dated year 982 of the Kane calendar. Frowny face Blackthorn Farm has a huge problem. I ambushed the Blackthorn Farm and detected a batch of pestilence grains. After burning the plague grains, I returned. I did not find the disseminator. Another example was the third last page, which was dated year 983 of the Kane calendar, year 983 of the Kane calendar. Suspected Whitestone silver mine. Raided Whitestone silver mine. Detected miners. Discovered 2 guards infected by the undead plague. I killed the guards and burned the silver mine. Returned. On the next page, there were some scribbles that were heavily crossed out. The sentence that was crossed out was identified as follows: I don't know if this is meaningful. I only feel that I am getting further and further away from the holy light and the path of a knight. At the back, Ian wrote another line of words with all his might: frowny face Archbishop Arlo can't be wrong. I repent for my suspicions. I will do my best to fulfill the oath of my 6 compatriots and investigate the source of the undead plague. The glory of the Black Edge will always be in my heart. After reading the diary, suddenly, a notification from the spiritual realm was sent to the 2 of them. Hero level side mission 1, The Truth of the Plague, activated. Mission objective, investigate the truth of the undead plague and find the true disseminator. Mission difficulty, B, mission duration, 10 days, mission reward, unknown. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi's expression changed at the same time. A hero-level mission. This was the first time they encountered one. Li Shi was confused and asked, "What happened?" After reading the diary, I am even more confused. What is the undead plague? Is Ian a good person or a bad person? Bai Xiaowen sorted out his thoughts and said, all my previous questions have basically been answered. In fact, Ian is a knight of the Church of Holy Light. He didn't betray us, but pretended to be a bandit. The purpose is to find out the truth behind this plague of the undead. Li Shi frowned. Why did he pretend to be a bandit? Bai Xiaowen speculated, maybe it was to facilitate the operation. According to the diary and Anton's previous words, I can deduce that the people and grains infected by the undead plague should have a period of incubation. The problem can't be detected, but it can be detected through a certain method. Next, he had to burn the grains and kill the infected. In many people's eyes, he was killing innocent people. It's incomprehensible. Li Shi understood. As a knight of the Church of Holy Light, Ian can't search casually, and he can't kill civilians. There are restrictions everywhere. But if he pretends to be a bandit, he won't have such restrictions and won't damage the reputation of the Church of Holy Light. Bai Xiaowen nodded and said, yes, there are 6 other people who changed their identities like him. They should be scattered throughout the northern borderline. Their code name is Black Edge. Oh. I killed a good person by mistake. Li Shi was a little upset. Bai Xiaowen smiled bitterly and shook his head. During the battle, who would know if he was a good person? For the sake of the Church of Holy Light's reputation, he definitely wouldn't reveal his true identity. He would only go down the dark path. Then, this hero-level side mission, should we accept it? Li Shi asked. If we accept the mission, we should be able to draw the item that Ian used to detect the undead plague from the treasure chest. Bai Xiaowen thought for a while. Accept it. There's no reason not to do a hero-level side mission. Plus, this is a continuous mission, so the rewards are usually better. After the 2 of them accepted the truth of the plague mission, they began to draw the loot cards. Just as Bai Xiaowen had predicted, the first item was the plague detector. It was a monocle, and the frame of the monocle glowed faintly. Plague detector, special item. Within 60 seconds after activation, you can see people or things infected by the undead plague. After each use, you need to pray for 10 minutes to recharge. You can only recharge it once per day. Current number of uses, 0/1. This item has a lot of limitations. It can only be used for 60 seconds after 10 minutes of charging, and it can only be recharged once per day. No wonder Ian couldn't make any progress after months of hard work. Bai Xiaowen shook his head and tried to recharge it. You don't have the faith of the Holy Light. Unable to recharge. Damn, I need a special interface. Bai Xiaowen complained. Luckily, I tricked a trainee knight. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to complete this mission. Next, there were 2 more chances to draw cards from Ian's treasure chest. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi decided to draw 1 each. Li Shi drew first and turned the card around. It was a necklace with a high-end golden glow. Arbiter's determination, bound upon pickup, grade, hero, gold, equipment position, neck, equipment requirement, 15 base constitution, attribute, constitution +3, additional skill, protection, summon the holy light and form a shield of light around your body. Lasts for 30 seconds. The shield absorbs 2 of your constitution. Cooldown, 24 hours. Durability description, every knight of the Black Spear Arbiter has an unparalleled firm belief. A superb necklace, Bai Xiaowen commented and gave Li Shi a thumbs up. Some gold equipment added attribute points, while others added skills. Generally speaking, gold equipment that added about 5 points of attribute points was considered superb. Of course, Li Shi's levitation necklace did not add any attribute points, but it had a very practical life-saving skill. It was also a superb piece of equipment. This necklace, Arbiter's Determination, not only added 3 points of constitution, but it also had a practical shield skill. Although the 24-hour cooldown was a little long, it was still a superb piece of equipment. It was even more valuable than the levitation necklace. Li Shi smiled sweetly. I already have a necklace. You can have this necklace. Your dog collar is so ugly. Hurry up and change it. Bai Xiaowen smiled as he put on the Arbiter's Determination necklace. His constitution had reached 20 points, which was comparable to a level 3 tank-type profession. Moreover, he had a 40-point shield skill. Bai Xiaowen selected the card for the last draw. You have received a special item, Oath of Shattering. Li Shi took a look and suddenly exclaimed, a party creation item. Oath of Shattering allows the Awakened to establish a temporary party to explore the spirit realm together. The party cannot exceed 2 members. The Awakened's level cannot exceed 6. After one exploration of the spirit realm, the party will automatically disband. This item will disappear after use. It's just a temporary party creation item. The level restriction is level 6. It's not bad. Bai Xiaowen quickly judged the value of this item. In order to maximize the profit, it should save the psionic points needed for 2 level 6 heroes to form a party. 48,000 points. Of course, under normal circumstances, there won't be such a huge profit. For the 2 of us, using it at level 6 can save about 36,000 psionic points. Chapter 250. Bai Xiaowen shook his head slightly. In fact, he wanted to exchange it for a piece of gold equipment. Even if it was not as good, it would be fine as long as it was useful. The reason was simple. He could only maximize his gains at level 6. When he reached level 6, the 30,000 spiritual points would not be as useful to Bai Xiaowen as it was now. Moreover, Bai Xiaowen had dozens of dragon blood tea leaves. He could exchange them for hundreds of thousands of spiritual points at any time. He was not lacking in this aspect. Of course, the value of a temporary party creation item was higher than a piece of gold equipment. After all, it could be traded or bartered. Bai Xiaowen put away the Oath of the Shattered. Then, he opened the other treasure chests with Li Shi. The intermediate elite bandits who followed Ian did not have a high combat rating. Their loot was also not surprising. However, the 2 level 7 elite bandit guards beside Ian had dropped a good item. It was a gold-grade cape. This cloak was called the Brilliant Cloak. It was silver in color. In addition to the 3% evasion rate of cloaks, it also added 3 points of back armor. It also had an active skill, Burning Light. When activated, it could blind enemies around it for 3 seconds. It had a cooldown of 8 hours. This cloak was more suitable for Li Shi because she was a melee fighter. Bai Xiaowen was a long-range attacker. Most of the time, he would not be able to fully utilize the Burning Light skill. Li Shi was also very fond of this gorgeous silver cloak. After splitting the loot, the 2 of them had obtained close to 10,000 mana points just from killing monsters. They had also obtained the temporary party creation tool and 2 pieces of yellow gold equipment. It could be said that they had earned a lot of mana points. In addition, the hidden benefits were even greater. For example, there were more than a dozen elite bandits among the 100 or so bandits. Bai Xiaowen had to consider how to maximize the value of these bandits, oh no, guards, in a limited time. Suddenly, the black soul stone heated up slightly. Delifa the Banshee's voice sounded. Master, I have an important matter to tell you. What is it? Before that, shouldn't you ask your partner to leave? Delifa asked carefully. This is related to the secret of soul absorption. No need. It doesn't matter if she knows. At first, Bai Xiaowen didn't want to let Li Shi know that the Black Soul Stone could absorb the souls of the dead. He was worried that she would be disgusted. However, after interacting with her for a long time, Bai Xiaowen found that Li Shi's mentality was similar to his. She was not an ignorant girl who was obsessed with moral cleanliness and righteousness. There was no harm in letting her know the secret. Okay. For Delifa, Bai Xiaowen's orders were everything. Bai Xiaowen put the Black Soul Stone on the table. Soon, the image of a skinny old man appeared on the surface of the Black Soul Stone. Huh? Isn't that Professor Mu Yuan, the one you killed in the King of Fighters plane? Li Shi's attention was drawn to the figure, and he exclaimed in surprise. Yes, that's right. This exclusive equipment of mine is a little special. It can absorb the souls of some special dead. Bai Xiaowen briefly explained the function of the Black Soul Stone and the existence of Delifa. Then, he said, Delifa, what do you want to say? You can say it now. Delifa the Banshee appeared next to the skinny Professor Mu Yuan. She smiled and said, Master, the Black Soul Stone has always absorbed the souls of elites and above, but they are all incomplete souls that have been stripped of their will. However, this old man is different. He's weak, but the Black Soul Stone took a fancy to him. The soul it absorbed was the complete version, and he retained his will. He seems to have a deal to discuss with you. Delifa the Banshee raised her whip. Old man, stop playing dead. Kneel down and call me master. On the surface of the Black Soul Stone, Professor Mu Yuan opened his eyes and coughed angrily. Impossible. I'm the greatest scientist in history. I have dignity. I won't be anyone's slave. Looks like you need to be educated again. Delifa the Banshee's whip hit Professor Mu Yuan's soul image. The old man cried out in pain. That's enough, Delifa. Bai Xiaowen stopped Delifa's violence. Mu Yuan, you were the one who wanted to trick me and brainwash me. You deserve to be killed by me. Don't blame me. Professor Mu Yuan took a deep breath. You're right. Then, what kind of deal do you want to discuss with me? Bai Xiaowen asked. Professor Mu Yuan organized his words. Ever since my soul was absorbed, I've been observing the outside world. I have to say, this has been an eye-opener for me. The world I originally lived in was just an insignificant small plane in the multiverse. As a scientist, I'm still very grateful to you, even if you didn't kill me. Li Shi suddenly exclaimed, You've been by Xiaowen's side all this time? You've been observing? You old pervert. Li Shi's face flushed red. Bai Xiaowen's face also darkened. Delifa, give him 2 more whips. Wait a minute. Professor Mu Yuan quickly raised his hands in surrender. I know what you mean, but I've never peeped into your private life. Duh. Earl Delifa knows. You have to be my witness. Delifa grinned and said, Master, don't worry. I only let Professor Mu Yuan out for some fresh air occasionally. I won't let him see anything he shouldn't see. You're not allowed to see it either. In the future, when you're on Earth, you'll automatically turn off your phone when you're not in a combat state. Bai Xiaowen said. Delifa looked regretful. He could only accept it helplessly. As you command. In that case, I'll leave the 2 whips for now. Professor Mu Yuan, you may continue, Bai Xiaowen said. Professor Mu Yuan cleared his throat. I have 2 wishes in life. The first is to have endless resources, and the second is to have an endless lifespan. These 2 wishes were to allow me to go further in my exploration of the mysteries of life science. Right now, my soul relies on the Black Soul Stone to exist. If you don't intend to kill me in the near future, I should be able to live for a long time. After a pause, Professor Mu Yuan continued, Therefore, I hope to regain the opportunity to research. I'm very interested in the undead plague in this world. It should provide me with some good materials for my research. Of course, this will also be beneficial to you. With the help of me, the greatest life science scientist of the 20th and 21st centuries, you'll be able to discover the truth about the undead plague faster. Without wasting my time, I can also help you create some special genetic medicine to improve your abilities. Professor Mu Yuan spared no effort in promoting himself. Bai Xiaowen nodded slightly. Sounds interesting. Professor Mu Yuan was overjoyed. Then we have a deal? I agree in principle. However, I have one additional request. Bai Xiaowen raised a finger. You have to obey my orders. All your research and work must be based on my needs. As for your research, you can do as you please when you're free. Professor Mu Yuan objected vehemently. No, interrupting a scientist's research project is extremely immoral and stupid. Your short-sighted order will likely make my efforts go to waste. Then there's nothing to talk about, Bai Xiaowen said. I don't think there's anything wrong with making the boss's needs my top priority. You're not my boss. Professor Mu Yuan was somewhat lacking in confidence. Your existence depends on the soul stone. Next, I'll have to create a carrier for you. Don't you need my summoning quota? Don't you need my soul essence? This is much more valuable than US dollars. Speaking of which, not only am I your boss, but I'm also the one who gave you your new body, Bai Xiaowen said. But without my help, you can't complete this hero-level mission, Professor Mu Yuan said. You're wrong. This mission is just a little difficult and challenging for me. It's not to the point of impossible. Bai Xiaowen shook his head. Your research is at most icing on the cake. Don't think so highly of yourself. Professor Mu Yuan was speechless. He knew Bai Xiaowen's ability, and he didn't think that Bai Xiaowen was bragging. However, as an expert in the field of life sciences of soundness, he was extremely unwilling to agree to Bai Xiaowen's demands as his top priority. If he really did that, Professor Mu Yuan would completely become an employee. He wouldn't have any freedom to speak of. Both sides were silent for a few seconds. I can take a step back a little, Bai Xiaowen said slowly. I won't give you orders endlessly. I'll give you orders at most 3 times every month. These 3 orders may be for you to research an antidote for a special virus, or for you to make a bottle of medicine. In short, it generally takes less time. After the 3 orders every month are used up, I won't ask you to do anything else even if I have other needs. 3 times is too much, Professor Mu Yuan bargained instinctively. 1 time. This is non-negotiable. If you still don't agree, then stay in the Black Soul Stone and continue to be trained by Delifa. Professor Mu Yuan had no choice but to accept. After the 2 reached an agreement, Professor Mu Yuan quickly put on an eager look. Boss, you just said that you'll provide me with a new body. When can I do it? Actually, I can do it now. Bai Xiaowen smiled slightly and opened the 3rd-level enhancement option of the Black Soul Stone. There were 4 enhancement options on the 3rd level. 2 of them were already lit up. One was to enhance the Shadow Assassin, and the other was to increase the Elite Summon Creature Skeleton Mage. These 2 enhancement options were worth the money. The other 2 options were to increase the summon creatures, but they had not been lit up yet. One option was to increase a normal zombie, which would cost 50 points of soul essence. The other option was to increase an elite vampire, which would cost 100 points of soul essence. Previously, Bai Xiaowen did not consider these 2 options because he felt that there were too many melee creatures. However, he could now consider giving one to Professor Mu Yuan as a vessel for his soul. I want the vampire one. Professor Mu Yuan said excitedly. Then you have to participate in battles. Can you do it? Bai Xiaowen smiled. I'm a scientist. A non-combatant who should be protected. Professor Mu Yuan said. If my vessel is killed in a battle, my consciousness will be damaged. Then why do you have an elite template? As a non-combatant, you can just hide behind and research with a normal template, Bai Xiaowen said bluntly. The zombie's movements are slow, especially its fingers. This will affect the success rate of the gene medicine. Professor Mu Yuan found an excuse. There's no need. When I ask you to concoct the gene medicine, I'll personally be your assistant. Just leave everything to me. Bai Xiaowen smiled. This way, he would be able to learn some knowledge about gene medicine. Why wouldn't he do it? In the end, Professor Mu Yuan could only give in helplessly. So what if he was a zombie? It was better than being a soul. Moreover, zombies and vampires were both undead creatures. As long as Bai Xiaowen was alive, they would continue to exist. This was enough to satisfy Professor Mu Yuan's research wish. Bai Xiaowen spent 50 points of soul essence. The Black Soul Stone's Return of the Dead ability added a new zombie. The summoned zombie was greenish-white in color. It was tall and big. You can start the fusion now. Bai Xiaowen chose to let the zombie devour Professor Mu Yuan's soul. You must follow my will during the fusion. Otherwise, you'll only get a few memory fragments. This zombie won't be able to help you with any creative research. Professor Mu Yuan was worried and reminded him. Enough with the nonsense. Delifa the Banshee snorted. I know what I'm doing. After a burst of black mist, the tall greenish-white zombie's appearance changed drastically. Perhaps it was because Professor Mu Yuan's consciousness was the main focus, but the zombie's appearance was similar to Professor Mu Yuan's. It went from being tall and strong to being thin and short. It was wearing a white coat. Its bald head was disproportionate to its thin body. Its eyes also bulged slightly like a goldfish's. Isn't this Professor Zombie from Plants vs. Zombies? Bai Xiaowen thought of a mobile game he had played in another space-time. He couldn't help but chuckle. In the future, he would just call this guy Professor Zombie. Professor Zombie knocked on his head and moved his limbs. My movements aren't as slow as I thought. They're even more nimble than I used to be. Of course. This zombie is a normal level 3 zombie. It originally had 8 points of dexterity. It's much more nimble than most untrained ordinary people. Saying it's slow is only relative to other level 3 creatures, Bai Xiaowen said. Yeah, its heart has stopped beating, and its brain is basically dead. To think it can still move. What a miracle. If I continue my research in this direction, I might be able to make some progress. My body is the best research specimen. Professor Zombie mumbled with a fanatical expression. Chapter 251. He's a researcher from an evil organization. It's normal for him to be a little crazy. Bai Xiaowen easily accepted Dr. Zombie's appearance. After the fusion, Dr. Zombie's original consciousness was the main one, and his loyalty wasn't as fixed as other summoned creatures. However, Dr. Zombie relied on the Black Soul Stone to exist, so he was essentially Bai Xiaowen's summoned creature. With a single thought, Bai Xiaowen could destroy Dr. Zombie's existence and erase him. Therefore, Dr. Zombie could still be trusted. Come, take a look at this plague detector. What do you think? Bai Xiaowen asked. Dr. Zombie, is this one of the 3 orders every month? Yes. Bai Xiaowen glanced at Dr. Zombie with disdain. However, I don't think you can see anything from this black technology from the magic plane. Nonsense. You're questioning a great scientist. Dr. Zombie took the plague detector and examined it carefully. Although the instruments and data at hand are limited, and there's no way to disassemble this detector for in-depth research, just from the surface observation, I can conclude that this thing is actually made up of 2 parts, Dr. Zombie said. One part has the function of neural connection, and it can connect to mental energy. The other part has a storage function. Oh, there's also a small conversion mechanism that can convert and store the spiritual energy injected into it. After a pause, Dr. Zombie said, however, there's a specific wavelength and frequency requirement for the spiritual energy injected into it. Simply speaking, only a person with a pure heart and leaning towards the light can inject it. Do you have a way to expand the storage of this detector? Bai Xiaowen asked. Dr. Zombie shrunk his huge head. I lack the necessary raw materials. It's hard to achieve. Li Shi pursed his lips. Doesn't that mean you wasted your time talking about it? It's not practical. However, Bai Xiaowen saw some of Dr. Zombie's professional foresight and acknowledged him to a certain extent. Okay, now we should discuss the investigation of the undead plague, Bai Xiaowen said. We need to call that trainee knight Bonita over. Without her, no one can operate this plague detector. Soon, Bonita was called over. After hearing Bai Xiaowen's brief description of the situation, she was dumbfounded. You said that Ian is a good person? He pretended to be a bandit? Bonita was surprised and mumbled, so, the rumor is true. What rumor? Bai Xiaowen took the opportunity to ask. We need a lot of information to investigate the undead plague. Bonita said, I heard that the church has an adjudicator troop, codenamed Black Edge. They are all devout and powerful knights. If the church has some inconvenient matters, they will be handed over to them. Something inconvenient to deal with? Don't tell me it's some dark business. It seems like the church isn't that pure either, Bai Xiaowen said. Burrito raised her head and said confidently, where there is light, there is darkness. The Black Blade executioners are true heroes. They didn't hesitate to fall into darkness for the sake of light. They are the role models for us apprentice knights. Stop. Bai Xiaowen waved his hand. Now is a chance to check if your faith is pure. Do you see this monocle? In fact, it's a device to detect the plague. After explaining, Bai Xiaowen handed the detector to Bonita. If you can charge it successfully, I'll agree that your faith is firm. Bonita snorted and took the detector. My faith will never waver. Holding the monocle, Bonita chose a spot far away from Bai Xiaowen, kneeled on one knee, and closed her eyes. It was quiet all of a sudden. It does look like it. But nothing has changed, Bai Xiaowen mumbled. Shoo. Li Shi pressed Bai Xiaowen's lips softly. From her angle, she could see that Bonita's face was solemn and serious. She didn't look as silly as she usually did. Her lips opened and closed as if she was murmuring something. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, as time went by, some light dust drifted around Bonita and landed on her hair and armor, making her look like a Saint Seiya who was opening a small universe. A pure beam of light descended from the sky without any hindrance and covered Bonita. She looked magnificent. Bai Xiaowen murmured, Honey, come and see God. Li Shi blushed and pinched Bai Xiaowen. Don't spoil the mood. Finally, after 10 minutes, the light disappeared, and Bonita returned to normal. How is it, small universe? I mean, how was the effect of the prayer? Bai Xiaowen asked. With a victorious expression, Bonita put the monocle on the wooden table. She raised her head and puffed out her chest, looking disdainful of talking. Bai Xiaowen picked up the plague detector and saw that the number of times it could be used was now 1/1. Well, it seems that your faith is good. As a reward, you can keep this detector. Bai Xiaowen threw the detector to Bonita. Ouch! Bonita shrieked and hurried to catch it. She complained, this is a treasure that can communicate with the holy light. How can you throw it away like that? Okay. Now, I announce that the investigation team of the undead plague in White Stone Town is established. There are 4 of us. Bai Xiaowen glanced at Dr. Zombie and considered him as a human in consideration of his fragile ego. Bonita had a strange expression. Isn't he just an undead creature? And you, an undead summoner. Can you really shoulder this sacred and important mission? Nonsense. I'm a great bow. Before Dr. Zombie could finish, Bai Xiaowen controlled him through the mind connection and shut him up. But what? Bonita looked at the zombie doctor's white coat and his disproportionately large zombie head with a suspicious gaze. Bo. Erudite. Well, that's what I mean. Bai Xiaowen coughed. This is a knowledgeable person. Oh, no, a knowledgeable zombie. His knowledge will be helpful to us. I don't think he's reliable. Bonita mumbled, but she didn't continue to object. back to the topic. How can we find the suspicious location of the undead plague? Li Shui asked. Chapter 252. After marking the locations, Bai Xiaowen drew a black line according to the order of the attack points. Looking at the direction of this line, the next target of the Black Wind Bandits led by Ian should be within these 3 areas. Bai Xiaowen put himself in Ian's shoes and made deductions according to his train of thought. He picked up a charcoal pencil and marked out 3 areas on the map. These 3 areas seem to be occupied by bandits. They're all medium-sized bandit groups. They can't compare to the Black Wind Bandits, but there are still 10 to 20 of them, Li Shui said. Yes. Actually, if you think about it, it's not just people like Ian who are investigating the plague who can disguise themselves as bandits. Even the conspirators who spread the plague can disguise themselves as bandits. After all, bandits don't attract much attention in the chaotic White Stone town, and they have a lot of freedom, Bai Xiaowen continued. Even without this side mission to investigate the truth of the undead plague, I still have to clear out the other bandit lairs in the territory. Then, these 3 bandit lairs will be the first targets to be targeted. Bai Xiaowen said to Zombie Doctor, now, the second order of the month is for you. You have to research the secret of the undead plague and create a cure for it as soon as possible. Zombie Doctor said unhappily, what I'm lacking now is samples and important equipment. Even if I'm a first-rate scholar, I can't do research without practice. I'll give you the samples you want. As for the equipment, you'll have to find a way to replace it. I believe that creating research conditions without conditions is what a first-rate scholar should do, Bai Xiaowen said. Zombie Doctor pursed his lips, I won't fall for it even if you try to provoke me. Alright, I can make some simple equipment first and do some preliminary research. Also, I'll give you some suggestions. Although I've never seen the undead plague before, I think it's a virus that can spread quickly and has a certain incubation period. In order to prevent you and your subordinates from being affected by the undead plague, you should take some protective measures during your investigation. After a pause, Zombie Doctor said in detail, viruses need a medium to spread. Usually, it's through breathing, food, blood, and sex. Diet and sex are not a big problem, but you have to pay attention to your breathing and blood. Bai Xiaowen shook his head and said, these 2 aspects are unavoidable. There weren't any decent gas masks in the Cane Plain. If the undead plague was truly spread through the air, then most people were destined to be infected. If it was spread through blood, who could guarantee that no one would be injured in a cold weapon battle? No contact with the enemy's blood? If he told the guards about this, it would make their hands and feet tied during the battle. Do we have to take all 5 teams of guards with us? Bonita asked. Didn't you promise to build houses for the people? Bai Xiaowen said, leave behind the 4th and 5th teams of the White Stone Town Guards to assist old Harvey in managing affairs and building houses for the people. We'll lead the other 3 teams and sweep the bandits' lair. When Bai Xiaowen had divided the bandits into teams, he had paid attention to the composition of the teams. The 4th and 5th teams were basically made up of the more timid bandits and servants. As for the stronger teams in the first 3 teams, especially the first team, Bai Xiaowen had to keep them by his side at all times to prevent the elite bandits from instigating internal strife. When they set off, Bai Xiaowen also took Dr. Zombie with him. Although he didn't say it, Bai Xiaowen still valued Dr. Zombie very much in his heart. This was an unexpected surprise. Dr. Zombie would be very useful in the future. If he stayed in White Stone Town and something happened while Bai Xiaowen wasn't around, it would be bad. If Dr. Zombie died, he could be summoned again, but his consciousness would be damaged to a certain extent, which might affect his research ability. This was something Bai Xiaowen didn't want to see. The next day, Bai Xiaowen led his team and raided 3 bandit lairs in a row. Even the Black Wind Bandits had been incorporated by Bai Xiaowen. These 3 bandit groups, which were only medium-sized forces, were naturally defeated at first touch. In front of the 3 guards led by Bai Xiaowen, they obediently put down their weapons and accepted the reorganization. Out of concern for the undead plague, Bai Xiaowen didn't immediately integrate these newly captured bandits into the guards. Instead, he temporarily included them in the group of prisoners of war. It was worth mentioning that under the encirclement of the 3 guards, these 3 medium-sized bandit lairs were all wiped out. Not a single one escaped. This was also deliberately arranged by Bai Xiaowen. He didn't want to let the possible propagators slip away. In a large open space in White Stone Town, the bandits from the 3 medium-sized bandit lairs were driven to the center of the field. "Put your hands on your head and squat down." Bai Xiaowen waved his arm. "The news from the Empire says that a spy from the remnant people has infiltrated among you. Therefore, all of you must be interrogated. Whoever dares to make a move will be killed on the spot." Bai Xiaowen's cold voice made all the bandit captives keep quiet out of fear. In yesterday's battle, they had already seen the strength of Bai Xiaowen and the power of the guards transformed from the Black Wind bandits. Of course, they didn't even have the slightest thought of resisting. Bai Xiaowen gestured to Bonita with his mouth. Bonita, who was wearing a monocle, appeared. She gently pushed the monocle up and seemed to see a faint ray of light slowly moving on the monocle frame. Yesterday, Bai Xiaowen had tested the plague detector of the Holy Light brand and found a batch of grains with the undead plague in the granary of one of the bandit lairs. Any person or object with the undead plague virus would emit a green light in the plague detector's field of vision. The denser the green light, the denser the virus of the undead plague was. "Ah!" all of a sudden, Bonita exclaimed. "You found something so soon?" Bai Xiaowen was a bit surprised. No. This scholar is also glowing, but the color is a bit different from yesterday's green light," Bonita said with a smile. "Don't worry about that. Examine these captives carefully." Bai Xiaowen reminded, "You only have 60 seconds to examine them. Time is precious." Why was Dr. Zombie glowing as well? The answer was simple. Because he was an undead creature. According to Bai Xiaowen's knowledge, humans infected by the undead plague would die in a short time once the virus broke out. Then, they would be turned into undead ghouls. The plague detector of the Holy Light brand treated Dr. Zombie as a human who had been turned into a ghoul after the virus broke out. Of course, it would emit a green light as well. Time passed second by second. Bonita walked past the captives who were holding their heads with their hands while murmuring, "Not this one. This one isn't either." Soon, 60 seconds passed, and Bonita still didn't find anything. "I don't think so," Bonita said to Bai Xiaowen as she turned around. "Not this one?" Bai Xiaowen frowned. Was he wrong? Ian's next target wasn't one of the 3 bandit lairs? While Bai Xiaowen was deep in thought, a handsome boy around 14 or 15 years old shivered in the crowd with his arms crossed. No one knew who pushed him, but the young man cried out and fell to the ground like a bag of wet cement. Bonita was startled and took a small step back. However, Bonita was a knight who had been educated with love and justice. It was her duty to help the weak. She blamed herself and hurriedly took a step forward to help the young man up. "Are you okay?" The boy shrunk his neck as if he couldn't stand the cold in the north. He asked in a low voice, "Sister, what are you looking for? Will we be killed by the Lord?" "We're looking for the undead." "No, we're looking for the spreader of the plague of the dead." Bonita comforted him with a smile. "Of course you won't be killed, because you're not." "The spreader of the plague of the dead?" There was a trace of confusion in the young man's eyes, and then his voice suddenly changed, becoming gloomy and cold. "Then take a look. Are you looking for me?" Along with this voice, the boy's handsome face shook like waves and turned into a gloomy and weird face full of wrinkles. While Bonita was surprised, he suddenly grabbed the monocle. "This is the key to finding the plague of the dead, right?" The weird man chuckled and clenched his fist, crushing the monocle. "You're too naive. The great plan of the Lord isn't something ants like you can stop." "Ah." Bonita let out a high decibel sound like a little girl seeing a cockroach. Anyone who saw such a weird face would be shocked and panicked. Bonita was just a novice knight with average combat experience, so she was no exception. Thud, 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 hurried footsteps sounded. Li Shi sped up, leaving behind a series of afterimages. With brutal tackle, he rushed to Bonita and knocked the weird man away. Catch him alive. Bai Xiaowen's voice sounded. As soon as the weird man appeared, Bai Xiaowen had already used insight. He found that this weird man was weak and only had the strength of an ordinary level 4 template. If Li Shi's sword hit a vital part and triggered a critical hit, the weird man would be killed instantly. Li Shi's sword, which had been aimed at the weird man's neck, changed direction abruptly and stabbed into the guy's shoulder. Just as the monster was about to retaliate, Bai Xiaowen cast a deterrence skill on it, causing it to become stiff and unable to move. Then, Kits rushed over, grabbed the weird man's right arm, and pinned him down with his back to the ground. However, the weird man reacted differently. It was as if the arm that was grabbed didn't belong to him. He twisted it hard, and with a crack, his arm broke. White bone stubble appeared, but he didn't feel any pain at all. With this ruthless momentum, he broke free from Kit's control and rushed toward Bai Xiaowen. Bai Xiaowen took out his Desert Eagle and shot the weird man's left knee. This shot triggered the 100% cumulative critical hit bonus of Yamazaki Ryuji's combat gloves. Together with the +4 headshot effect of the Desert Eagle, he broke the weird man's left leg. Although the weird man didn't fear pain, he still lost his balance with a broken leg and fell down in his high-speed charge. A few elite bandit guards pounced on him and pinned him down. Bai Xiaowen walked to the weird man. The weird man looked up at him. "You seem to be too impatient, Mr. Spreader," Bai Xiaowen said. The weird man cackled. "Spreader? You're right. I spread the supreme glory of the ruler. But don't be too proud. There are countless people in the north who are willing to spread the ruler's glory like me. And you lost an important tool to detect the plague of the dead. White Stone Town can no longer stop the spread of the plague of the dead. I sacrificed myself for the ruler. Everything I did was worth it. Is that so?" Bai Xiaowen laughed and took out a monocle. The weird man's pupils contracted. "Impossible. This special tool can only be made by an archbishop who is proficient in the path of the holy light. There must be a limited number of them. There can't be a second one in this remote White Stone Town." The weird man said shrilly. "You're right. There's only one in White Stone Town. But the one you destroyed was only a fake." Bai Xiaowen laughed. "The one in my hand is the real one. I'll explain it simply. Stupid thing, you've been deceived." While the weird man was shocked and discouraged, a yellow talisman suddenly appeared in Bai Xiaowen's palm and shot directly between the weird man's eyebrows. At this time, in the White Stone Silver Mine, Job's fat body suddenly twitched. His eyes quickly rolled back and he fell to the ground with a thud. Talisman switch, Bewitching Talisman, activate. Enemy strength ratio 0. 411, 1. The success rate of the Bewitching Talisman is suppressed by your Lord status. The success rate of the Bewitching Talisman is increased. Because the target is in a state of mental breakdown, the determination of willpower is decreased. The success rate of the Bewitching Talisman is increased. The Bewitching Talisman's effect has been successfully determined. Plague Spreader W07 has been successfully bewitched. Bai Xiaowen took a deep breath and felt a burst of excitement. Indeed, as Bai Xiaowen thought, the Bewitching Talisman's ability to bewitch was linked to many factors. The most basic one was the strength ratio between the enemy and himself. This ratio determined the basic success rate. Bai Xiaowen's lord status would suppress the other party and increase the success rate to a certain extent. Later on, Bai Xiaowen deliberately attacked the mind of the plague spreader, disintegrating his willpower and causing him to fall into a state of depression. This was to test whether the success rate of the Bewitching Talisman could be increased under such circumstances. Reality proved that it was possible to do so. In terms of emotions, there was a phrase called taking advantage of the situation. The same principle applied to the control of talismans. Although the spiritual world was a digitalized plane world, it was still extremely close to the actual situation. Chapter 253. Soon, Bai Xiaowen opened his eyes. There was a hint of shock on his face. "What's wrong?" Seeing Bai Xiaowen's strange expression, Li Shi asked with concern. "I'm fine, but the news is too explosive, so I have to take it slow. The original plan needs to be changed a little." Bai Xiaowen gave Li Shi a look to wait, and then scattered the bandit captives in the square and organized them into the White Stone Town Guard team. The original team of 100 people had now expanded to more than 200. Of course, this increase in numbers didn't only come from the bandit captives, but also from the citizens who responded to the call to join the White Stone Town Construction Corps. It was worth mentioning that the loot from the 3 middle-sized bandit groups was even more than what Ian's Black Wind bandit group had obtained. On the Lord's page, the gold coins of White Stone Town had reached 607, and there was also a large amount of gold and silver utensils, works of art, and other valuable things, but they couldn't be sold for the time being. In terms of food, the seized black bread, flour, grain, and other supplies were enough to feed the construction corps for at least a week. While the building materials were increasing, they were also being consumed rapidly. The bandit servants built wooden houses one after another. These bandit servants naturally didn't learn about urban planning, but building in the area planned by Bai Xiaowen didn't appear to be too chaotic. The territory's popular sentiment, after the initial rapid rise, had reached a period of steady growth. There was a reason why the 3 middle-sized bandit groups had obtained more than the Black Wind bandit group. According to Keats, although Boss Ian was powerful, he was more or less not engaged in proper business. The targets he usually chose for his robberies were very strange, and most of them were in the local area of White Stone Town, a poor area with no profit to be made. This caused the Black Wind bandit group to have the name of White Stone Town's largest bandit group, but the actual loot was less than the other bandit groups. It was also because of this that the Black Wind bandit group's bandits, such as Kits, usually had some complaints about Ian. Moreover, Kits and some of the elite bandits were also secretly discussing it. They felt that Dior's approach was essentially no different from that of a bandit. They just had a new boss, so they did not have much resistance. Moreover, with the status of a true feudal lord of the empire, Kits and the others' pillaging activities were covered with a layer of legitimacy. They didn't have to live in those stinking caves either. It was much more comfortable than when they were under Ian's command. Bai Xiaowen did not care about the gold coins that he plundered. With a wave of his hand, he rewarded half of the gold coins according to the standard of elite robbers more than ordinary robbers and ordinary robbers more than servant robbers. This made the robber guards of the construction corps rejoice. In fact, the gold coins from the main page could not be brought out of the spiritual realm. This was also the reason why Bai Xiaowen was so generous. Bai Xiaowen changed his plan. He did not continue to investigate the undead plague. Instead, he led the bandit squad, which had swelled in numbers, to take in the other bandit factions in White Stone Town. The efficiency of this snowball effect was quite terrifying. Later, when the small and medium-sized bandit factions in White Stone Town saw the elite scale of more than 100 people behind Bai Xiaowen, they did not even have the courage to resist. They really surrendered at the sight of the wind, saving Bai Xiaowen a lot of time. The only ones who were dissatisfied were the original bosses of the various bandit factions. They were naturally not willing to be reorganized. However, Bai Xiaowen's method of dealing with these troublemakers was very simple. He killed them all. Basically, every time they arrived at a place, they would surround them, kill the boss, take in the underlings, and loot the treasuries before packing them up and transporting them back. In 2 days, the original dozen or so bandit factions in White Stone Town, big and small, were cleaned up. In these 2 days, Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi were as relaxed and happy as if they were on an outing. They did not encounter any decent resistance at all. In the feudal lord's big house. "I keep feeling that you seem to be hiding something from me," Li Shi said. "Time is so tight, but you still have the time to take in those bandits. It took you 2 days to do this. Bonita looked at Li Shi with some confusion. Isn't this good? It only took you 2 days to save this town that was suffering from bandits. Although I still don't like necromancers, it's still praiseworthy to make such a contribution. Li Shi's expression changed, but he did not say anything. Instead, he looked at Bai Xiaowen. Bonita and Bai Xiaowen were awakeners. The meaning of 2 days for her and Bai Xiaowen was completely different from the meaning of 2 days for Bonita. Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi could only stay in the cane bit wall for 15 days at most. Moreover, the war between the Black Rock defense line and the survivors was the highlight. In their original plan, the main task, enlist your army, should be completed as soon as possible. Then, they would rush to the Black Rock defense line and participate in a more intense war, which meant more benefits. Therefore, Bai Xiaowen spent 2 days in White Stone Town, which was what puzzled Li Shi. It was too ridiculous to say that he did it to save the town. Saving the town and developing the economy were not main tasks or side tasks. There was no reward at all. Bai Xiaowen understood Li Shi's idea. He nodded and said, "Yes, I did it for a reason." The door was pushed open. The plague spreader, W07, walked in with a dull expression and his hands hanging down. "I've read W07's memory and found a problem. The situation we're facing may be much worse than what we imagined." Bai Xiaowen said, "Do you know what W07 means?" Li Shi, Bonita, and Dr. Zombie shook their heads in unison. The letter in front corresponds to the area, and the number in the back is the number of the spreader in a certain area, Bai Xiaowen said. "The undead plague is a virus war controlled and launched by a being called the Dominator. Although I don't have exact information, I suspect that it has something to do with the survivors. Because the plague virus is targeted at the human race, it basically has no effect on the orcs, trolls, dark elves, and so on. Oh my God, it's so abominable. The Holy Light will never allow such a crime to exist." Bonita clenched her small fists. Li Shi followed Bai Xiaowen's words and asked, "Does the letter W correspond to White Stone Town?" You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.